A little off tonight, it looks like. All right. All right. Yeah, we're a little disorganized tonight. Welcome to this, our 249th live stream. A Seraph in every Flagon. Uh, yeah, nobody ever accused us of following organized religion, and here we are. Yeah, we had the countdown going and realized the lights weren't on. Lovely. And the screen was blacked out. Fantastic. Well, we're glad you could join us tonight. And don't have a lot in the way of channel business. We want to let you know that we got our first proof copy of Lord and Steel and Sky this week. And there's a reason why we do proofs. Because it had a mistake on the spine. Spines always get us for some reason. But we hit the wrong book what was on the spine. So this is why we do very, very early proof copies. Because it takes the publisher forever to get it to us. And then we find out there's mistakes. So things happen. The other thing I want to mention is that the video game Egg Hunter is going to be coming out on March 2nd, and that is available through Steam. And it's a visual fantasy novel. So if you like visual novels, this might be up your stream. It's about bunnies and, well, bunnies doing some not so nice things sometimes. But some nice things too. Okay. Yeah, the spine, again. It's always the spine that gets us. We've never had a book release that didn't at some point we discovered that there was a problem with the spine. It's always the spine. And it doesn't matter how much we check it. Always slips through somehow. Now, funny enough, it's not on the hardcover. It was only on the soft cover. So, yes, and eggies. Lots of eggies in the Egg Hunter game. Naughty bunnies. Yep, they're naughty bunnies. That error's backbreaking, yeah. Yeah, it is. But it's fixed now and will not be showing up in the final copies. So that's a one-off. Okay, that's a one-of-a-kind. There will never be another book like that exactly. So that's a good thing. We don't want that to be repeated. Alrighty. Got our rules for the live stream here. CPM versus DOS. No joke, I drank a blue Slurpee while testing the video game. I'm glad. I'm not sure about the health worthiness of blue Slurpees, but then again, I don't know what the health value is of blue burpees either. So that's a thing. Okay. All right. The rules of the channel. We are going to take your questions on ancient Egypt and the Bible, and the rules are same as always. Super chats have priority. If you want to ask a non-super chat, you have to start it with a Q and a colon so we know it's directed to us. Only post non-super chats once. If you post it multiple times, it will be disqualified for the night. No exceptions on this. Doesn't matter if you're a first-time viewer or not. So if you question spam, we're just going to be very, very hard-nosed about that. If it's a verse from the Bible, we need a little context. So you do need to give us what book it's in, what chapter and verse. We do allow people to sponsor non-super chats, but we ask that when you do that, do include this non-super chat in the super chat so we don't have to go hunting for it. It just saves us time. And then finally, one question per chat, because question stacking isn't fair to anyone. All right, so with that said, let's get into the questions. What flavor is blue? Blue raspberry. Yes, blue sorority peas are blue raspberry. I remember that. I used to, when I was a teenager, I used to drink those things. Refreshing corn syrup. Okay, our first question of the night here is we're going to take Dude's question here, not to answer it, but to let him know. We will give you the brief question of this. He asks, third time lucky, why is God always depicted as an old man instead of a young, virile man? And again,
get your pencil out, write it down.
And Duza, get your pencil out and write this down, because we answered this 2 weeks ago. Okay? We answered it at the end of the live stream, okay? Now, we're not going to get into the habit of repeating answers of questions, which is why you're going to get an abbreviated question here. But since you didn't think it was answered, go back 2 weeks ago, end of stream, you'll find it there. Okay. The reason why is because God's called the Ancient of Days. It's a title that has basically connotes the timelessness of God himself. Now, in our frame, we don't have anything that denotes timelessness. So we use the figure of an elderly person to show somebody who has extreme antiquity. Okay? It's only a symbol. It's an artistic symbol. It's a metaphor. It's not meant to show preciseness, as it were. So that's the short answer. If you want the longer answer, go look up the live stream from 2 weeks ago. All right? So thank you for the question. Really appreciate it. Okay, next question here is from King Bubby, who asks, thought on Mummy movie coming out soon, and personal opinion on the pop culture portrayal of mummies of stock monsters. I love them. Absolutely love mummies in movies. I think it's fantastic when a mummy movie comes out, and it's a real Egyptian mummy, as it were. Not one of these weird, say, Chinese tomb mummies. No, real Egyptian mummies. Any movie that comes out that brings focus back on Egypt is good for us. It's good for getting people interested in Egypt. It's just good overall, even when the movie's terrible. Like Exodus, Gods and Kings was absolutely terrible. But, boy, it did bring attention to Egypt again. So I absolutely love when pop culture makes these portrayals of mummies. Now, I'm not afraid of a mummy. Mummies are the last movie monster I would be afraid of. I mean, they weigh less than a cat. They're very fragile. A strong breeze will, or a sudden bolt will make them fall apart. Don't ask me how I know that. Certain incident with a certain mentor in a certain museum. Good times. Good times. Yes, a mummy can go from essentially a work of art to a sloppy sandbag in a moment. Only takes one wrong moment. to turn a mummy from, as I said, a beautiful work of art to just a sack of bones. Not great. Not great. That is so that's basically my thought on this. Okay? So so it's fantastic. I absolutely love when movies do stuff on mummies. It also, as I said, it's good for me personally too, because when a big movie like this comes out, people start getting interested in associated media too, like novels, like video games, that sort of thing. And then they come to me and they ask me to do consulting, and that's a pretty good paycheck for me when I get consulting gigs like that. So absolutely fantastic. I wish people would do more of them. All right. So thank you very much for the question. Okay, next one here is from TBTM. He says, what would you say if someone said the reason Avaris was abandoned is because they went to live in Pi-Ramesses, similar to when Avaris was established, cities were abandoned and people went there? Okay, there's a couple of issues with that. We're going to talk about Avaris in detail. Okay? Because I think it's worth talking about it in detail. Avaris didn't arise, though. When Avaris arose, other cities weren't abandoned. I don't know where they got that from. Okay? Avaris...
Some people did.
Yeah, but actually, when Avaris was established, it wasn't populated initially by people going to a capital. It was populated by essentially migrant hunters in the Nile Delta. So these were people who didn't live in cities. They were living out in the hinterland, hunting fish and fowling. And then they just sort of moved into the city to get the benefits of a city. So, the establishment of Avaris really didn't cause other cities to be abandoned. So I think that's sort of a false causation there. Okay, but let's talk about Avaris anyway, because it is cool, and I have a map that I drew. Ooh, here is my map. Here's my map of Avaris and Pi-Ramesses. Okay. Here, let's I'm trying to do this. Here is, let's see what I'm doing there. Okay. There's the river. Okay. The river goes, the red on the bottom is basically seasonal dry and wet areas. Okay. So, Avaris was not a map 300, was not an island 365 days a year. It was a seasonal island. During the dry season, the land between connecting the bank and Avaris would dry up, and it would be used for agriculture. Okay, the river drifted slightly north, and then to the east you have Pi-Ramesses. Okay, and Pi-Ramesses, unlike Avaris, was an island all year round. Okay. Now, the big star in the center, that's the harbor. Okay? Now, when you hear people talk about why Avaris was abandoned, they usually give one of two reasons. First reason is that the river moved and people just didn't find it viable to live anymore. Well, the river didn't move that much, and right up until Pi-Ramesses itself was abandoned, that port remained in operation. Okay, so the river didn't move so much that Avaris itself was unusable. Okay, the other thing is that's often cited is that this became the go-to place, and people sort of voluntarily picked up and moved from Avaris to Pi-Ramesses. Now, there's some issues with that theory too. So, one of the problems with that idea is, why would you leave homes that you've made? They're established. There's not really a good reason to move to Pi-Ramesses. Now, Pi-Ramesses had its own people moving in because it became the capital. So you had a lot of people from the Theban area move and relocate to Pi-Ramesses because they need to be closer to government. But you didn't have that reason in Avaris. Most of the people working at Avaris were doing either agricultural work, mud brick work, or ceramics. Those were the sort of the three big industries of Avaris in the Ramesside period. Well, if you move to Pi-Ramesses, now you're away from the fields. So that's not a good reason to move to Pi-Ramesses. If you're doing the mud brick construction, you're making mud bricks essentially, now you're away from the mud pits. Okay, again, not a great reason to move to Pi-Ramesses. Even ceramics. Yeah, there's some ceramic silt around Pi-Ramesses, but if you're trying to make this as an industry, as a production, I don't think it's a compelling reason to relocate your whole workshop from Avaris to Pi-Ramesses. It doesn't make a huge amount of sense. Ryan Cohnkamp says, why wasn't Avaris resettled after the Exodus, since there would have been a lot of free houses? Because they needed a lot of free cemetery space. That's the reason. Okay? Most of Avaris was turned into cemeteries. Okay? So basically, after it was abandoned, it was turned into one massive cemetery. They've actually found a few of the tombs now intact, and they're definitely date to mid 19th dynasty. So they basically turn the houses into graveyards, which can happen if you need a lot of Ryan Cohen to have different kind of houses. Yeah, houses for the dead. Yeah. So that's what they did with them. Is basically they turned the occupied areas into cemeteries. What they would do is they would bury people inside the house and just sort of collapse the roof, and you got an instant tomb. So Mama says, cemetery for firstborns and former charioteers, perhaps. Yeah, possibly. Yeah. It's houses for the dead. Houses for the dead. And as I said, the way they would do this is they would, use the bottom layer of the house, because what typically the way that tombs were constructed in that area anyway, was you would make a long sort of brick wall, short brick wall, and then just put paved bricks over top. Now, this is what's sometimes called a Semitic tomb. And you just lay the body and a few grave goods in that sort of little mud brick trough, and just buried everything in that, and then you covered it with stones over mud bricks over top. Okay, so if you have houses already, you're half done the wall construction. So you just put in another little wall, put in a body, some grave goods, and pave it over top, and you collapse the roof or whatever, and you've got an instant tomb. The question though is, why did they need so many tombs over such a broad area in that time? That's more the question. So, Mama says, wow, gives houses of the dead a meaning I never considered. Yeah, instant tomb. Yeah, Ryan's got it here. Instant tomb. Yeah. People aren't going to live there anymore because of whatever reason, whether they abandoned it or not. It was the housing of slaves anyway. Okay, so keep this in mind too. This is the housing of slaves. It's not exactly premium housing. Okay? And because it's not exactly premium housing, no one's going to want to live there anyway. So yeah, if you need a lot of tombs, it's a good alternative. Okay, so I think that answers the Avaris question. Essentially, Pi-Ramesses became capital in early Dynasty 19. Avaris and Pi-Ramesses were coincided as cities, for 20, 30 years. And then Avaris was abandoned in mid-Dynasty 19. Okay, so hope that helped. Thank you very much for the question, and very much appreciated. Ryan, waterfront property, well, half the year. Yeah. During inundation cycle, which is really actually a third of the year. So, yeah, Avaris was surrounded by water a third of the year. Pi-Ramesses was surrounded year-round. Okay, let's move on to the next question here. Is our first super chat. Chow Yi for 15 Myanmar. Thank you very much for the super chat. Can physical pursuits through exercise be acts of worship on par with the intellectual through study or the spirit through prayer and fasting? I will give that a very qualitative maybe. Okay. It is possible that you could use acts of exercise, physical exercise in that way. But here's the problem with it. It's sooner or later. You have to be really careful about that, because a lot of that ends up becoming sort of veiled, me-centered kind of worshipping the self. So it's not impossible, but it's also not something that is sort of efficacious in the same way as, say, prayer and fasting. We know that prayer and fasting is a direct spiritual discipline, just by the very nature of the act. The intellectual can feed in to spiritual discipline, although it doesn't always. But the further you kind of get away from sort of the spiritual aspect of it, the less it becomes an act of worship. So, while it's possible, it's something you have to do with you have to do it with care, and not in neglect of the rest. Okay? So if you decide to use exercise as an act of worship, and you have found a way to navigate, say, the potential pitfalls of that, then you then have to take the next step and go, okay, how is this building me up spiritually? It's not just to say, not good enough to just say, healthy body, healthy mind. Is it used to bring glory to God? Is it used to create resiliency of the spirit, of spiritual discipline as such? If there isn't, then it's not going to be on par with, say, either intellectual study or prayer or fasting as such. Okay? So I hope that helps, and I hope that gives you some guidance. Again, it's possible, but if you do it, you have to really, really qualify it as something primarily done for the glory of God, not necessarily the glory of man. Okay? So I hope that helps. Thank you very much for the super chat. Very much appreciated. Okay, next one here. And we're just going to take these from the top down here. I'll take this one from Daniel Hogan. By the way, thank you very much for giving us a pronunciation name, a guide here. We don't get that very often, so we butcher names a lot. So I do appreciate that. So, and Daniel asks, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the arguments surrounding the dating of the Book of Daniel? I had been persuaded to a late date that is Antiochus, curious of your view. Okay, I don't have a huge... for me, this one is kind of sort of a tempest in a teapot thing. It could be early, it could be date. Either one works for me fine. I have found most of the arguments for the late dating uncompelling. But at the same time, too, I'm not stuck on the early date of this either. So, one of the main arguments for dating it late is ex eventu prophecy. Now, that sort of bakes in a presupposition, a circular presupposition that you can't have true prophecy. So if all prophecy is ex eventu, then you don't believe in that there can be any futurist prophecy. So if you find futurist prophecy, it must be later dated. I don't find that a compelling argument. Not because I think that there isn't such thing as ex eventu prophecy. I think, though, that ex eventu prophecy or futurist prophecy aren't the only options. So, because I don't think it's the only options, I also don't think that ex eventu, the idea that it does allude to the time of the Seleucids, necessarily points to a late date. Now, I think it could. I think that's possible. It might. I'm open to that possibility. And it doesn't present any problems if it happens to be late dated. But it's also, like another argument I hear is that the use of Aramaic in Daniel's late too, well, it's really not. You can find Aramaic being used all the way back to the 10th century BC. And even some of the phrasing that has been used in the book of Daniel has really early antecedents, that go back to 800 BC. So I found even that sort of argument for a late date not compelling. So my thought on this is, yeah, some of it might be late dated, some of it might be early dated. It could be either, and I have no sort of dog in this fight. So the Dark Blade goes, Falk is nicer than me here. I consider the denial of traditional authorship for biblical books in general to be near heresy. Here's what I will say, though, okay? Here's what I will say, though, about the dating of the book of Daniel. It depends on what you mean by late, too. Here's one of the issues that I've had with the book of Daniel is its relationship to First Enoch. Now, most biblical critics date First Enoch to the 4th century BC. But First Enoch quotes Daniel. That's going to be a very hard sell to say that the book is late dated when a book that is quoting it is actually earlier than what you're dating Daniel. It's going to be a very tough sell for me. Again, I don't think it matters overall as for the importance of the book, whether it's late or early, but I also don't think Flagon have Enoch was a time traveler too. Could be.
Doctor Who got it around.
Doctor Who's taking that TARDIS around again to the biblical period. Yeah, so I'm not convinced. I'm essentially not convinced. So yeah, I'm not convinced. I'm not persuaded by a late date. But I also don't think it's a problem if you happen to hold it. So, Maverick Glow said, wouldn't they say that Daniel was quoting Enoch? But they don't. That's the funny thing. They all recognize that it's Daniel being quoted in Enoch, not Daniel quoting Enoch as such. So Enoch's quoting Daniel, not Daniel quoting Enoch. So, you go look this up, and they're all going to say that that Enoch has to post-date Daniel, but they all agree on the dating of Enoch. So it's just really strange. It's a cognitive disconnect. It's a cognitive disconnect is what it is. It's holding two separate beliefs that are incompatible, but being dogmatic about both. So, very strange. It's incredibly strange. Maverick says, huh, well, articles have to be written and dissertations have to be awarded. Yep, I'm sure they do. Darkblade says, so they created an anachronism in their own theory. Yeah. Yeah, they did. But again, I don't have a huge dog in this fight. I could go either way on this ultimately, but for me, it just, I'm not convinced by the late dating. Now, somebody might come up with a literary theory that does properly account for it. I might be okay with that, but again, I don't have really any fight in this, so I don't much care one way or the other. But I will say this, though, too. You really do need to date Daniel no later than the 3rd century. And the reason why is because it is concluded in the Septuagint. So anyway, I hope that helps. Thank you for that question. Really appreciate it. But yeah, but that's my view. I don't care. That's my view. I don't care. I don't think it changes much of anything. But am I persuaded by the late date? No. Am I persuaded by the arguments for the early date? Maybe, maybe not. But I don't have really any hard commitments to this. All right, next one is from Mama. Are there extra biblical accounts of 2 Chronicles 35, 20-22 regarding Neco just wanting to pass by, but Josiah being deadly dumb? There's no extra biblical accounts of Neco's encounter with Josiah. That wasn't actually seen as a huge thing. Neco was essentially passing up the coastal plain. He made a right turn at the Jezreel Valley, and he was crossing into Syria. That's where he was going. And he was going to help his buddy, Ashurbanipal II. Now, there is an account of Neco helping Ashurbanipal II. Okay? And it's recorded in the Mesopotamian Chronicles. And if you want to see that, I will even give you a reference. I had seen this once before. You will find this in Grayson's Mesopotamian Chronicles of 1975 on page 128, where it talks about Eniku Sarus Shah Misir, okay? Which is Neco, king of Egypt. And he is going to aid his buddy, the Assyrian king. So we do find it in the Mesopotamian Chronicles. And it is Chronicle 15. And what's Chronicle 15 here? Do we have a date for that? Oh, sorry, it's the end of Chronicle 14. And Chronicle 14, let me get you the is the Ezra Haddon Chronicle, British Museum 25091. So there it is. There it is. It's so you do find it in the Mesopotamian Chronicles. The Neco going up and helping Assyria. But you don't find any other mention of Neco's army coming in conflict with the Judahite army. So it's his trip up there's confirmed. He was up there, at least according to the Mesopotamians. But his sort of clash with Josiah wasn't a big enough thing to mention. And it wouldn't even have actually been that big a deal anyway for the Egyptians, because the Egyptians wounded Josiah, but they didn't know he was dead yet. He's basically pierced by an arrow, and he has to take his chariot back, and he dies, either, I forget, en route or back in Jerusalem, but he's, they don't know he's dead yet. So, well, Mama says, poor Josiah. Josiah didn't ask God what to do. Josiah never consulted the Lord on this one. Neco said, hey, I'm going up to, my God told me to go up and help the Assyrians. Do not get him in the way of me and my God. So, yeah, Common Lurker says, Josiah ought not to have gone on that campaign. I agree with that. Yeah, he shouldn't have gone on that one. He should have known better. But Josiah was getting involved in regional politics. He was getting involved with regional politics. Yeah. Well, it was one of those things where Mama says, no, I know. I have to wonder what made him so adamant. Hatred of the Assyrians. It was really hatred of the Assyrians. Assyrians had a really bad reputation. Everyone hated the Assyrians. They deserved to fail. But what Josiah was trying to do was prevent Egypt's army from reaching the battle to help the Assyrians. Basically, he was trying to change the balance of power. That's what he was trying to do. He was trying to prevent the Egyptians from arriving, helping the Assyrians, and basically letting the Assyrians lose, essentially, to the Babylonians, the Medes and the Babylonians. Okay? But there was no chance that the Assyrians were going to win this anyway. It essentially, the cause of the failure of the Assyrian army was not going to be helped by the Egyptians. The Assyrians had incompetent leadership. And, in the exercises that the Egyptians did with the Assyrians, it was not looking good. It was already not looking good. So, Andrew Graham goes, so there was a time when Josiah didn't follow God? No. He was following God. He just didn't ask. Okay? He made an assumption. We all do sometimes. We all do stupid things where we don't ask God and we go on our own. Excuse me. Andrew Graham also asks, did they not have chariots in Assyria? Oh, yeah. Yeah, Assyria had chariots. They also had incompetent leadership. It looks like that the problem was that they couldn't actually coordinate things well. So, um, sometimes when your army loses discipline, it fails when it's out on the battlefield. Gets too comfortable. We see this, for example, in the later Roman Empire, where things get a little soft. Armies don't practice their drills. Chariots don't practice their coordination routines. And then when they get out onto the field, it's a mess. It's chaos, it's a mess, and the army gets routed. That seems to be what's happened to Assyria. Was by the time Ashurbanipal II came on the scene, the Assyrian army had gotten kind of lazy with its military discipline. So it couldn't coordinate properly. And it didn't coordinate with the Egyptians at all. So it's like they're fielding two armies on the field that are doing their own thing. Ashurbanipal's army gets completely destroyed at the Battle of Carchemish. Okay? Egypt gets trounced, but the army, for the most part, still survives. And then they come back into Judah, and they said, okay, we're going to blame it on this, on Judah for our failure to succeed up in Assyria. Now we're going to replace the Judahite king and take some tribute just to get a little revenge here. So, okay, so I hope that helps. I believe that answers the Neco question here. Very much appreciate the question, and as I said, hope it helps. Mama says, who is your favorite king of Judah? Oh, that would actually be Josiah. I actually like Josiah. Josiah was a good king. He was probably the best king they had. Ranko and Cap. What is the Seraph to Scarab conversion ratio? Oh, I don't think you have that many Scarabs, man. Mama asks, who are your favorite Old Testament major, minor prophets? I don't really have a favorite prophet. I don't like these kind of who's your favorite questions here, because anyone who knows me well enough could probably answer them for me anyway. But it's like, who's best prophet? Like, well, they're all important. John the Baptist. There you go. He's an Old Testament prophet, greatest of the prophets. Never wrote a thing. Andrew Graham goes, in the New Testament. Oh, well, in the New Testament, I wouldn't even dare to answer that. Orion Cohen Camp, he goes, he was, quote, Elijah. So, yeah, OT. He is OT. He is prior to the first writing of any book of the New Testament. He's technically Old Testament. All right, so moving on here. Mama says, do you think King Jehoiada actually lived 130 literal years? No, I don't. Or is 130 a number symbolic of something in relation to age? I would have to look up the reference for Jehoiada to get that, but and I'd have to compare it to other related texts too. So I don't have enough information to assess this properly. So I would really need more information. Let's see. What do I have here for Jehoiada anyway? I don't even have him on the list. Where is he on the list? You gave it right after? Okay. Let's see, do I find it here? I ain't seeing it. I see your next question. Is King Amaziah the dumbest king of Judah? Not the most evil, just the most stupid. Yeah, he's pretty bad. Manasseh was bad too, though. I mean, Manasseh was evil and stupid. I think probably the dumbest king in King of Judah. I mean, stupid, might go to actually Hezekiah. I mean, he entreats emissaries from Babylon. Again, without consulting anybody, just because he wants to show off. And, shows them all the gold.
Please come rob
Yeah,
me.
please come rob me.
When you rob me, this is how many carts you'll need to pull it away.
Yeah, give them everything they need to case the joint. And then when he's told that he'll live out his reign, but all his sons will be turned into eunuchs, he goes, "Whew, at least I'm okay." Like, that's your posterity, man. Can you say dumb? Dumb? Yeah, oh yeah. Oh, okay. At least I will live to a ripe old age. But all my sons will be castrated. Like, stupid and selfish. It's just like, oh man. Stupid and selfish. Okay, that's fun. All right, now she does give the verse to the previous one here, and that is at 2 Chronicles 25:15. I'll pull up my Bible here and go to 2 Chronicles 25:15. 2 Chronicles 25:15. 24:15. 24. Okay, Joash was 7 years old when he became king, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. This is verse 1. And Joash did what was right in the sight of the Lord all the days of Jehoiada the priest. Okay, that's the priest. Jehoiada is the priest. Okay. Now Jehoiada reached a ripe old age, and he died. He was 130 years old at his death. Yeah, I'm not. Okay, so let's look at Jehoiada in other verses too. Well, it's still really old. Jehoiada. Spell it now. Jehoiada. Okay. Kings here. So we've got Jehoiada's priest in 2 Kings chapter 12. Yeah, we don't have any other mention of him there. Let's see what the Septuagint says. 2 Chronicles 24. Verse 15. Okay, where's my Septuagint? There. Not King James Version, Septuagint. Okay, Septuagint agrees with the Masoretic text. It's 130 years. Yeah, I would wonder about that. Um, yeah, I would doubt that's literal. You do see 130-year dates sort of lifespan sort of bandied about a bit in the book of Exodus. It's possible it's a sort of Scott says 130 years. Only biblical figure I know that to live precisely that long was lucky Job. Yeah, now possibly. But we do know that others were said to have lived that long too, like Amram was said to live in 100, I think either 133 or 137. When I see that, I tend to think you're dealing with then a line of people of the same name. Like there could be, in this particular case, a line of Jehoiadas. And given that he's a priest, that's not exactly unheard of. So I would probably think that this is probably alluding to a line, a posterity of Jehoiada's, which he's the last. So that would be what I would say that this is. All right. Next one here is from Mama. She says, does Genesis 45:8 seem to infer that the Pharaoh Joseph served was younger than Joseph? Let's take a look. Genesis. Let's get back to this. Genesis 45, verse 8. We'll start verse 7. And God sent me before you to preserve you, for you a remnant in the earth, and to keep you alive by a great deliverance. Now, therefore, it was not you who sent me here, but God. And he has made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord to all his house, and ruler over the land of Egypt. Yeah, possibly. Yeah. Or at least an important advisor. So, yeah, it's possible that Pharaoh was younger than Joseph. Wouldn't be that unlikely, especially if it's at the beginning of a reign. Like, for example, if Joseph is entering the scene at, say, who do I think is likely here to be Pharaoh at the time? Benanu, if it's Benanu at the beginning of his reign, or Apakarian, yeah, any one of those could have been rather on the young side. So, yeah, I mean, young kings took the throne all the time. So, Ryan's question. How long was Joseph Vizier? Was it only the 14 years or the rest of his life? We don't know. We don't know. Kings had the prerogative to replace their vizier at any time. Okay? And we're just not told how long Joseph was made vizier. It could have been just the 14. It could have been 20, 30 years. It could have been across multiple kings. It might not have been. A next king could come to the throne and just said, hey, I'm time for some new blood here. It was entirely up to the king's prerogative to replace him, and the Bible doesn't tell us how long he served as vizier. So we just don't know. Mama says it seems like it was like the rest of his life. That's an open question. The Bible actually doesn't close that question. So it's basically the Bible is telling us that he was vizier, that he was for the 7 years of famine and the 7 years of plenty. But beyond that, we don't really know. He might have been vizier for some time afterwards. He might have been replaced. Again, it's up to the king's prerogative, and we aren't told. If we aren't told, we can't assume. So, all right, let's move on to the next question here. Next question here is from Vlogsal, who says, let's see something. Okay. Is the Tower of Babel unrealistic with how languages from throughout the ages, or is the story plausible? Okay. Here's the thing with the Tower of Babel narrative. Do not overread the text. This is one of those texts, the whole Genesis 11 text is one of the texts that succumbs to a lot of overreading. Overreading is a massive danger when it comes to reading biblical texts. Because we're not used to context of the ancient Near Eastern texts, modern readers tend to overread everything. So, when it talks about that they built a tower unto heaven, people think it's they're building a tower so reach the stars. That's not what it means. Unto heaven means facing unto heaven. Oh boy. Okay. Now, as far as the confusion of languages, basically it says that their languages were confused and they were spread out all over the earth. That's a hyperbolic suggestion. It's that, yeah, they spread out because their language was confused, but that's not the origin of all languages. So we have to be really, really careful not to overread the text. So, yeah, if that's what you're going to do, you just have to be really careful about that. Otherwise, you're going to land into trouble. And I see this all the time, where people take a piece of text, don't understand the context, and then overread it. That's not the way ancient languages and ancient texts work. So, I'd be really careful about reading it in that sort of simplistic way. That's not what the text is driving at. It's not driving at, well, this is the origin of all languages. It's not driving at that at all. But the confusions of languages caused people to spread out, and that ultimately did result in languages being produced. So, hi Milo, if you're around, say hello. Drop in chat. Brian Young comes to mind. Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah, there's that. Okay, lovely. Good things. So yeah, so that's what I would caution you of here. Don't overread the text. If you overread the text, you're going to land into trouble every time. Because these are not texts that are designed to be overread. They're very, very contextualized. Like all texts are. All texts have a context. And without that context, you could read some real strange stuff. All right. Next one. We'll take the one other super chat we have, and then it's probably all non-super chats. Because we didn't get very many super chats tonight, so it could be a real short night. Okay. James Murray Walsh, for $10 Australian. Thank you very much for the super chat. He says, I'm writing a 1,300-word paper on how David Falk has contributed to Egyptology, ancient Near Eastern studies. Can I have access to your PhD dissertation and Ark of the Covenant book? I can't really give you a copy of the Ark of the Covenant book. That would make my publisher really unhappy to do that. As far as my PhD dissertation, I believe it's available from the British Library. You can download it. So that's where you get it from, is the British Library or the library of the University of Liverpool. And you can just download it. So that's where you would find those. Unfortunately, again, I can't give you a free copy of the book. That would just, as I said, my publisher would be very upset about that. It's not something about.
He's welcome to tell us.
You can ask a local library to buy it for you, and then just check it out. That's many libraries are more than willing to do that for you. So anyway, I'd have to. What about chapter 6 and 7? Well, still it's the same problem. I can't really do that. So if for stuff I self-publish, I do sometimes give out reader copies, advanced reader copies, especially for those who promise reviews. But this was published by Hendrickson's, and I'm under a contract with them, so I don't actually have a huge amount of play into that. Okay, so sorry about that. It's something you either have to buy or lend from a library. And again, this is what I suggest you do. Ask your local library to get it in for you. Or interlibrary loans.
Yeah.
If you're doing this for a paper, a class paper, you can use your library's interlibrary loan system. Libraries almost never talk about their interlibrary loan system, but almost every library has this, where you can get a book from another library shipped to your library. You read it, you return to your local library, and then they send it back. It's called the Interlibrary Loan System. And, oh my gosh, we did so many interlibrary loans when we were at Trinity. So many! we used that system. Boy, oh boy, we got antique books on Japanese swords.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we just scanned them. It's just like, oh, it was fantastic. Okay. All right, fantastic. So that's about the best I can help you. Again, I'm under contract with Hendrickson's, so I can't really give out the book. I have to get permission to do that, and they are not exactly the easiest people to get permission out. I've had, even for review copies, it's been very, very difficult for me to get Hendrickson's to send review copies to people I need to. So unfortunately, I cannot do that. But thank you for the interest. The PhD dissertation, you can download that off of, as I said, either the British Library or the University of Liverpool. Either one, I think, has a link that you can download. So, hope that helps. Thank you for the super chat. Francis Dobbs says, do libraries do a version for non-students? My husband is a student, but I'd love to use this too. Yeah, actually, there are, like, public libraries will do this too. They have a version of this in public libraries. So, like, I know that Vancouver Library does a version of interlibrary loans across the province of British Columbia. So yeah, there's a version of this. If you're a non-student, sometimes you might have to pay for it. Like they might charge you postage. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's reasonable if you're doing an interlibrary loan. But if you're doing, say, $10 of postage on a $500 book, oh yeah, that's worth it, man. That's worth it. So students often get the postage waived. They're allowed a certain number of interlibrary loans a year or month or something like that. I think we were allowed something like 10 a month when we were students. So we had lists. We kept lists.
Yeah, these 10 this month. These next month.
Okay. But yeah, public libraries have a version of this too. And you have to see what your local library can do for you. But sometimes they just don't tell you about it. Sometimes they just say, they either just expect you to know. Frankly, they don't like it when people use the system because it means they have to fill out mailing labels. They don't like to fill out the mailing labels. It's kind of a bit of work for them. But DPM versus DOS. Well, that's good. That's good. My local library is full of people who do not want to work.
Well, they're also nervous because they'd be responsible if the student crashed the book.
Yeah.
And trying to get money.
Yeah.
But once you establish a reputation, be extremely careful turning on time.
Yeah.
The librarians we work with.
Yeah. So yeah, you can get librarians that want to help you out. Especially if you're concentrating on a book in one particular area that's also interests them, you can find that they can be very helpful. They also can be more helpful too if you don't act like an idiot. All right. Here's an example. Mrs. Producer went to the local librarian and said, I really need help with this paper. And she goes, I've got 2 weeks to finish it. And he goes, he laughed. He laughed at her. he says, what I normally get is students coming up to me and saying, I need help with my paper. It's due tomorrow. He says, that's what I normally get. Yeah, 2 weeks I can do something for you. Night before, not so much. Yeah, 2 weeks is like they can do a lot for you in 2 weeks. James Murray asks, once I submit the paper, can I send it to you? Sure, you can send it to me in Discord. Yeah, join our Discord community, and you can send it to me there. Mama says, I love that story. So it's like, libraries can be really, really helpful if you give them the time to do it. They got other duties too, so you gotta give them time. Give them 2 weeks, give them a month. You give them a month, and they will be really, really helpful. And I wouldn't give them more than a month. But yeah, a month is enough time for the librarian to do a lot for you. So, absolutely, can order books in. There's again a lot of these hidden facilities in libraries that can really help your research. Do they have access to ebooks? There's another thing.
Oh yeah.
A lot of libraries now have subscriptions to ebooks, and they can get that overnight. Need a book? Like the Ark of the Covenant book? It's available on an ebook. Get the library to order the ebook, and then you can have access to it now. And libraries do have a budget for this. And libraries love ordering ebooks. Because, do libraries transfer ebooks to? No, they don't. But what libraries do is they have to order a copy for themselves. Okay? But this is cheap. Okay? They pay like $5 for an ebook. But they can then take that ebook, loan it to you for like a week or two, and then it goes, the digital rights go back to the library. And then once it's back at the library, they can rent it out to somebody else. They can lend it out to somebody else. It becomes part of their permanent ebook collection. So if you're willing to get the ebook version, they can get that to you super fast. And I know Hendrickson's does sell ebooks of the Ark of the Covenant. So some libraries do have access it through the ebook edition. DBC says ebooks are best. Easy, fast, cheaper. I hate reading them myself. I don't like ebooks. Okay. I prefer paper. Frankly, my favorite way of reading books is by softcover. I do love this format of book. That's my favorite. But at the same time, too, I recognize that's expensive to produce. In fact, so expensive because the printing costs have gone up recently. Prices of printing on books have gone up. And it kind of caught me unaware at one point. Like, for example, the printer who does my novels raised the cost of printing. And in the last 2 weeks, I discovered that the hardcover for Lord of Steel and Sky, this is softcover, the hardcover was actually costing 90 cents more than I was getting. Okay, so I was paying, for people who bought that book in hardcover, I was paying 90 cents out of pocket to cover the added expenses of the book. So not only did I get no money out of it, I was paying the printer to sell the book. Fantastic. Oh, yeah, that's a hardcover, all right. It's bad enough with Amazon's huge bite out of this that, we were only making like $2 a book on it. But then to discover, instead of making $2, you were paying 90 cents? Ugh. The actual heck? Oh, yeah. You would think that a $35 book would net the author $30, but it doesn't.
At $5,
it's like minus the dollar.
Did you hit them?
Did you hit him with hardcover? I wish I could have. Yeah. It's harder for authors than ever to actually make money off of writing, just because you're playing whack-a-mole. You're playing whack-a-mole with the prices, the vendors. If it isn't Ingram Spark, it's Amazon. If it isn't Amazon, it's Audible. If it isn't Audible, it's Spotify. You're just playing whack-a-mole, and you're having to keep tabs on all these different people with their hands in the cookie jar, trying to fight over the last $2 you would have gotten. Yeah, that's Francis Dobbs says, I would have guessed a profit of $13 to $20, but that's insane to be less than that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. Amazon's really ruined the market.
You'd think the author would get.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd think that the author would get 60%, but there's a reason why there are a lot of people that are going now to say entirely digital, because it does play slightly more, but so slight. Danny Dement asks the member question: is there a means to buy your books in a way that financially supports you more directly? I wish there was, man. Here's the thing. With that, it's Patreon's a great way to support us. Unfortunately, buying the books directly, we might try to do might try to offer the books through a paywall electronically. But that sort of starts getting dicey too, because we can't digitally protect those. And it doesn't really help anyway, but it's a nuisance thing more than anything else. We can't ship books, okay? Because then we're just taking the cost of the book, which we have to, first of all, ship those books from the United States to Canada. Okay, that's one set of fees and taxes. And then we have to jack up the price to cover that. And then we have to, if we ship that back to the United States, that's then $18 of postage. It's not viable for us to ship books out. Okay? It's just incredibly expensive to reship books for us. Yeah, Canada Post has its own fingers in the cookie jar, and it's just ugh. I'm currently having even problems sending out, like, for example, advanced reader copies. There's a few book reviewers I would like to get our copies of our books, but I'm having a problem right now with Ingram Spark doing that. They're not. If I ship the book within the U.S., it's less of an issue. Like, I could possibly do that, but
you just got your.
But they take forever. If you yeah.
That's 3 months.
Yeah, it takes them 3 months to print a single book. So Francis Dubs says, and we wonder why there's a literacy crisis in our children. We screw over our writers. Yeah. Yeah, we do. So, CPM versus DOS gives us $2 super chat and says 90 cents. Hey, at least Amazon only takes 30%. When Amazon only takes 30% YouTube. When YouTube only takes 30%, that's a good deal.
Darkly, outright piracy. Well, if you're going to pirate the book, which we not recommend, but drop what you think it's worth in PayPal. That's a way to directly support us. We get more money.
Darkblade asks, what do you hate more? These carriers and their cuts, or outright piracy? That's a tough question. Here's the thing, what I say about outright piracy. People who outright pirate stuff are never going to buy them anyway. They're never going to buy it anyway. If they're not going to buy it anyway, then you're not really losing anything there. Okay? The ones where they take nickel and dime every last cent from you, Yeah, that I hate more, honestly. Um, at least some of the pirates will like the book enough to buy a hard copy eventually because they want it on the shelf. Not a huge percentage of them, but some. But the carriers, the producers of the books, the resellers of the books, they're taking the lion's share. And I mean the lion's share. 40 to 50% of the cover price of a book goes to Amazon. And Amazon won't even list your book pre-sale unless they get 55%. So that's who's getting all the money, is Amazon. So it's hard not to resent Amazon in this situation because they're not leaving anything on the table for you. That's the issue. They're leaving nothing on the table for you. So I don't get nearly as angry with outright piracy because, again, they're not going to pay for it anyway. There's no lost money there. So
there is in
yeah. Danny DeMint, is there a PayPal we can drop tips to perchance? Yes, there is. The PayPal link is in the description. So it's in there. You can find it in the description to all our videos. So we do have PayPal, and that's the best way anyone can support us. Honestly, we get like they PayPal takes a really small slice. I think it's something like 2%. The rest of it goes to us directly. The other thing that we get to is the fact is that those are basically tips or gifts. Okay? And gifts don't get taxed in Canada. So we don't pay Amazon's 30%, or sorry, YouTube's 30%. We also don't pay the government's 30%. So it really is, PayPal is really the best way to pay us. Because again, it's the best deal from both perspectives, taxation wise, as well as say, what's it called now? Vendor cut wise. Mama says Amazon makes me salty. Well, it makes me salty too. Thank you for the super sticker, Mama. We really appreciate the $1.49. Thank you so very much. This is normally one of our low times of the year. So giving is down right now, and we do appreciate all the support. So thank you so very much. We also want to thank here Jack Ray, who gifted the 50 Ancient Egypt and the Bible memberships. We do so appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Okay, so let's move on here to the next question. Rich Adam asks, are you seeing less books and authors due to the business of Amazon? No. Actually, we're seeing the opposite effect. We're actually seeing right now more authors getting into it. And the reason we're seeing more authors getting into publishing and really self-publishing, Amazon has one good thing Amazon has done is it's reduced some of the barriers for entry into publishing. So you no longer have the big five publishers or even the small boutique publishers now gatekeeping who can be published, and I think that's a good thing, because traditional publishing has ended up being the purveyor of all sorts of garbage. So thank you, Danny. We appreciate that. And a lot of books that have been very good, that have sort of, how do I say this? Been neglected by traditional publishing in favor of stuff that's more woke, more focused on identity politics, weird sexuality. I won't get into that, but there's been a lot of traditional publishing that has been focused on that area. So, well, there's a reason why, for example, like women dominate fiction publishing. Absolutely dominate. Let's move on to the next one here. And what's going on with my control panel? My control panel on YouTube is deciding to be obstreperous. That's always a good time. All right. So yeah, the result of Amazon is it has actually increased the number of authors. It's increased the number of books out there. It's also, though, because of that too, it's also drowned a lot of good books in a sea of garbage. Okay. So with that said, this is why book reviews are so important. Okay. Here's the thing about book reviews. It tells the Amazon algorithm that this person's book is worth raising above the pack. Okay? If not, you're really just competing with 3 million a year of other books of dubious quality. So, yeah, this is why, as I said, if you like Reliquary of the Dead, please leave a review. If you liked All the Stars as Angels, please leave a review. That's the best way you can help us. Even if it's just, read this book, fantastic, thrilling read, recommended. Okay, 8 words, I think I just said. That's better than nothing. Okay.
Read it, loved it, recommend.
Yeah, read it, loved it, recommend. You know, it doesn't even have to be a very complicated review. Just that you wrote text in a review is enough. So if you have read the book, if you've read Reliquary of the Dead, love it, hate it, please leave a review. The more reviews, the more engagement, the more Amazon will promote the book. So again, really appreciate you guys who have left reviews. It's been very helpful. Did you see Danny DeMent's comment?
Yes.
Okay, should I read that one?
No.
Okay. But it's talking about werewolves. I'll just show it. Okay. Maverick goes, that is why review bombing can be so detrimental. Yeah, well, it can be. Review bombing, especially if they haven't read the book, or they're going on somebody's bad reputation, not actually the content of the book. Yeah, absolutely, review bombing can be detrimental. You get that more on Goodreads, though, than Amazon. But you do have occasionally review bombing where the author really did deserve it. There was one, what's her name? She used to go by Audra Winters. Now she goes, I think, by Milo Winters. She's changed her name and sexuality. But she had this really hyped up fantasy novel that was based upon magic, zodiac magic. Okay? And she had gotten something like 30,000 pre-sales. Because she hyped it up so much on TikTok. I mean, really hyped this thing up. She had the whole, what's it called now? Elizabeth Home look going, with the black turtleneck and the long blonde and all that stuff.
And she openly said she.
Yeah, and she openly even compared herself to Elizabeth Home at one point. But people actually got the book, and it was dreadful. It was dreadful. It was badly written. Really badly written. And it resulted in a review bombing of epic proportions. Because here's the thing. People were now curious. They were now curious. They knew it existed. They had heard it was a bad book. They wanted to read how bad a book it was. So people started buying this thing, but then they would return it. That was the other thing.
Oh, that was the problem.
Yeah, that was the problem, was they would buy the book, read it, return it, and, of course, she couldn't make money at this. And then they would review it. Well, they had read it, so, but, ooh, yeah. Right, going cap, reverse Streisand effect. I don't know how much of it was reversed at that point, but yeah, sort of.
It was Streisand.
Yeah. Danny Dement, the train wreck you can't look away from. Yeah. Oh yeah. And she had this wonderful story about how she had come up with this fantasy world as a 12-year-old. Well, that's a bad sign to begin with, but so she'd come up with this fantasy world as a 12-year-old and had spent the next decade perfecting the work of this novel based on this fantasy world she had as a 12-year-old. And, she said it was supposed to be this superiorly produced edition with art in it and all of that. So it had illustrations, and it was just going to end up going off the rails. Because she had hyped it up, and a lot of people loved the story. Loved her personal story.
Loved her marketing.
They loved her marketing. So when they got the book, and it was really badly written, they review bombed it.
Nobody's ever determined
it. No.
Very...
Yeah, it wasn't AI marketed. She was a marketing genius, but she was very good at marketing. She just was a terrible writer. So, okay, well, let's move on to the next question here. Okay, Mama asks a question here about Genesis 24:59. Okay, 24. Her nurse went with her. Seems weird. Explain. Okay, Genesis 24. Let's find out who's being talked about here. 24. Okay, 59. Okay, we'll start at verse. Let's see here. And he said, do not delay me, start at verse 56. Since the Lord has prospered my way, send me away that I may go to my master. And they said, we will call the girl and consult her wishes. And they called Rebekah and said to her, will you go with this man? And she said, I will go. Yeah, buffering issues. Yeah, I saw that, guys. We just got a disconnect here on OBS. Okay. Yes. How do I say this? Muslims interpret this as her being 6 years old. Okay? That's not what's going on here. Okay? Let me be very, very clear about this. This is not a wet nurse. Okay? This is a title that is often used for, say, tutors. Governesses. That's a better way of putting it. This is a governess. This is not a wet nurse. This is a governess. But they were in a lot of older literature, and even again, this is a traditional rendering here. Okay, this is a traditional rendering. Like, for example, we do find this, for example, in like Senenmut, infamous nurse for the daughter of Hatshepsut. Now, he's a dude. He's not a wet nurse. Okay? That would just be strange. Okay? So, what this is the nurse, the job of what we called in this text a nurse, because it does come from the word meaning to suck or suckle. So, but that role is extended as to basically teaching manners, teaching etiquette. Darkblade chat, what's a governess? Oh boy. And that's why they use the term nurse. Mama, explain to Darkblade what a governess is. It's probably
security guard for a female.
It's a security guard for a female, essentially. Yeah. But they did more than that. It's a companion. It's a companion that's meant to instruct the young lady on how to behave. Okay?
It protects her reputation.
Yeah. Yeah, it does a lot. It serves a lot of purposes, like training. It guards her reputation. It keeps her safe when she travels, and that's here what's going on. Rebecca is about to leave with a bunch of strange men. Okay, she's about to leave with a bunch of strange men that they have never met. Okay, so a governess is required, a chaperone.
Very much a chaperone.
It's a chaperone. Blue Dog says the Net Bible says female attendant. Yeah, that's actually a really good translation. Yeah. That's an excellent translation, female attendant. I like that one. Yeah, it's hard to translate this. A professional friend, yeah. It's really hard to translate this without it sounding anachronistic.
It's almost like it's a professional aunt.
Yeah, yeah. This is one of those
female who protects the reputation,
mm-hmm.
trains.
Yeah.
But also, it's a companion.
Yeah, it's one of those terms that we don't actually have this function much in our society anymore, which is why it's very difficult to translate, because you have to be able. I mean, in the 19th century, these were common. These were really, really common in the 19th century. You know, women would have governesses and chaperones and usually older female attendants to protect the reputation and finish off the training of the ladies before they marry. So that's really what's going on here in Genesis 24:59. It's not talking about Maverick Glow says Mrs. Weston and Emma. Yeah, Mrs. Weston and Emma is a great example. Darkblade, also, why do these readers want Rebecca to be 3 so badly? It's to justify Muhammad's marital behavior. That's what it's for. Blue Dog, like Mary Poppins without the magic stuff. Exactly. Yeah. Back in the days when governesses were a thing. A Sing a Bright Song, Nanny might be a suitable translation as well. Again, though, Nanny is probably, you see Nanny referred to as with younger children, but this is older. These are basically already, these are, say, female companions that are already old enough to give their charges some of the facts of life. So again, governess is a great translation. Chaperone is a great translation. Tutor, not as quite as good, but it's sort of more closer to that. Rich Adam, I heard Rachel was 3 from a Jewish scholar. Yeah, I don't buy that. Well, I mean, I buy that you got that from a Jewish scholar. Jewish scholars do get some strange interpretations. They're gonna double down on the whole suckling the root etymology fallacy on this. There is a root fallacy, a root lexeme fallacy that is very, very popular, which is used to infer that she was like 3. But I can't imagine, like in verse 58, they called Rebecca and said to her, "Will you go with this man?" And she said, "I will go." Yeah, is that something you're going to, I mean, giving, a parent having that sort of, say, "Oh, are you going to go with this man to marry?" Asking a 3-year-old that, it just defies common sense, even, to interpret it in that way. It's just strange. So, yeah, but yeah, it's, yeah, substitute.
So the rich didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Permanent baby.
Darkblade, some Jewish rabbis are big on what, in my honest opinion, is blatant fan fiction of the Bible. Yeah, they are. Jewish exegesis can be a little off the rails at times, and it does really get into aspects of, like you say, fan fiction.
Rich Adam. Sounds like she was a herdswoman.
Yeah. Rich Adam says, it sounds like she was a herdswoman. Yeah, that's what she was.
But,
because they had to call the girl. She's not there. Where is she? They had to call her and consult her wishes. I mean, a 3-year-old, where a 3-year-old is most of the time, unless you're really derelict parents.
Right. She lifts a clay jar full of water the whole time.
Yeah.
A 3-year-old.
Yeah. DBC, a 3-year-old giving water to camels, right? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, does it? Makes no sense at all to say she was 3. Oh, Mama, you missed the whole governess chaperone discussion. It was fantastic. We did take your question here on her nurse that went with her. Seems weird. Explain. This is a governess. This is not. Yeah, it's really a governess. That's best. At least that's the term you would understand. There's some people in the chat who didn't know what a governess was. Okay, so she goes, "I was listening, just couldn't comment." Okay, cool. All right, let's move on to the next question here. It's from Ryan Kohnkamp asks. Oh, we already covered that. All right, Louis Sandoval. Are biblical or ancient chaos monsters connected to galactic events like supernovae? And has anyone ever come close to such forces? Okay. It is possible that chaos monsters are connected to things such as supernovae, or any other like crazy destructive force. It's possible. Has anyone ever come close to such forces? No. You generally don't survive those kind of things. So, some like Leviathan and Tanim are associated with the forces of the deep sea, and that they're their own thing. The forces down at the bottom of the ocean, that submersible that imploded kind of shows you how destructive those forces are. So yeah, pretty crazy stuff. It's pretty crazy stuff. Thank you, Mama, for that donation to PayPal. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Okay, next one here. Louis Sandoval asks, do people leave behind any kind of spiritual residue or imprint after death? Maybe. There is a phenomenon known as apparitions. Okay? Now, this is sort of a subset of ghost. But here's the difference. An apparition isn't like, say, a demonic spirit in that it's something you can interact with. A lot of ghosts can be interacted with. Some apparitions, the difference between a full-on ghost and an apparition is you can interact with a ghost. You can't interact with an apparition. You can ask a ghost a question and it gives you an answer. You ask a question to an apparition, it doesn't respond. Doesn't know you're there. Doesn't care. It's like a tape recorder that sort of keeps playing back the same recording. That's an apparition. Okay? So the question is, what is the cause of an apparition? So, we don't know. Some have suggested that some apparitions are caused by the living. And there's actually some pretty good evidence of apparitions being caused by living people who are, they're alive. They might be in a coma, and they just go off and do these, say, recorded, sort of rehearse the same thing in their head all over and over again, but happens to be two blocks down the street. Some apparitions have been tied to horrific events where the psychic trauma of the horrific event was such that that it imprints of dark tidings as such. Near-death experiences, not so much. You don't tend to get apparitions from near-death experiences, and there's been a lot. You tend to see them more in hotels where there have been some bad experiences. Apparitions also appear in places where there has been a lot of violent behavior, like psychiatric prisons. Surprisingly, a number of ghost towns, and I mean this in the way that, like for example, like gold mining towns, if you know anything about prospecting and gold mining in the 19th century, it was incredibly violent. Those towns were just amazingly violent. Yeah, you were more likely to die of smallpox than anything else, or dysentery. But in, say, like abandoned western gold mining towns, there does they have a higher incidence of apparitions reported. Again, it's just one of those things that if it's a place where there's a lot of violence, you tend to see apparitions more. Again, they're not ghosts. You can't interact with them. Shadow men are a kind of apparition. You can't interact with them. They're there. You can see them. I know, I've seen one, but you can't interact with them. They're just doing their own thing. So, Darkblade says, was there a lot of murder during the California gold rush? Oh, yes. And it comes down to this, like, everyone's killing everyone else. It's amazing. Like, for example, you go to Tombstone, Arizona, and you see, like Boot Hill Cemetery. Oh, that was interesting. Yeah, everyone's killing everyone else. The Indians are killing the gold miners. The prostitutes are killing each other. The men are. Right, you were wrong, but we. Oh yeah, there's this one where a guy was falsely accused of something, and the local mob hung him. And they put on his tombstone, he was right. We were wrong. Now we hung him, and now he's gone. Their miners are killing each other over jumped claims. It was a thing. They would get drunk in the saloon and then shoot each other. Just because. A lot of stabbings. Actually, a lot more people died in gold mining towns from stabbings or a shovel to the head than they died from actual pistols. Yellow fever took a lot of them too. A lot of them died from yellow fever. Claim Jumper was a fine restaurant in the day. I suppose. I suppose it was. Okay, let's get back to this here. So yeah, there was a lot of murder during the California gold rush. Nevada had a small gold rush too, and that was really violent. Okay, next one here. Scott Worthen asks, Dr. Falk, please tell us what whatever you know of or heard of or read about near-death experiences. Please read after. Okay. NDEs, near-death experiences, are. I've never had a lot of confidence in near-death experiences. Here's what a near-death experience is. It's where you're not dead, but dying. Okay, the body is dying, and the person undergoes an experience of some kind. Now, typically, near-death experiences fall under sort of two categories, which is the sort of the above the body experience. So they appear above the body and can watch the room and that sort of thing. That's one kind of near-death experience. The other kind is where they have some sort of experience of the beyond, either angels or demons, heaven or hell. Most of the time, the hell one, what's real interesting about near-death experiences isn't so much that it's proof of heaven or hell, because I don't think it is. I don't think it's this. You're not really dead with a near-death experience. Brian says that. You're only mostly dead. Yeah. So you're not actually dead. Okay? And the brain stays alive after the rest of the body dies for a short period of time. So, and they've done say brain scans of people who are actually in the throes of death, and they've noticed that there's a what the brain does is it starts to shut down as oxygen diminishes, and when the body dies, it sort of goes into this flat line, and then it goes into a blip, and then you get true brain death at that point. Okay, so, but here's the thing. What I find more interesting about near-death experiences is that when people come out of it, 90% of the time they're screaming in panic. They're screaming in absolute terror and panic when they come out of it. You talk to them 1 hour later, and they've turned this into this beatific, existential, tale of beauty and sublimity. I think it's super interesting that, as I said, not so much that that this is proof, but they're terrified. Absolutely terrified. They'll come out screaming, "I'm on fire, I'm burning, I'm burning, I'm burning," and they're just completely flipping out because of what they saw was so horrific and terrifying. And then just 1 hour later, I saw angels.
And the doctor person.
Yeah, because of patient confidentiality, doctors will not typically discuss this. So, yeah, it's yeah. Ryan Cohencamp says, so people filling in gaps just like when seeing an angel. Yeah, in some respect, yeah. But also it's more than just filling in gaps here, it's reconciling. It's reconciling the terror of what they experienced with their life in the moment. So, so there is that one of the things that Sing a Bright Song says, I've had a near-death experience and I've had visions of heaven, but I don't think in retrospect they were the same experience. Well, probably not. And not everyone who has, say, a near-death experience either, does see that. I mean, there are people who do in the process of a near-death experience, do see, coming out of it, angels. Some do. It's not common, though. As I said, it's only about 10% that come out seeing something beautiful. 90%. I think this is the say the traffic control of Stairway to Heaven and Highway to Hell, but after sites, only 10% have a hell experience. 33% who claim heart stop claim an NDE of some sort. Yeah, the thing with after is it's getting to the patient too late. You really have to get to them early in order to get that true statistic. Inverse 90, 10 to 90, hell heaven. Yeah, that's the problem with a lot of the NDE advocates. A lot of the NDE advocates have a cognitive bias here. A lot of them will wait, and frankly, there's a reason. You can't interview somebody on the operating table. It just
Considered a wee bit.
It's considered a little tacky, okay? So they have to wait, and once they wait, the opinion changes. Scott says, would you be willing to read after if you can fit it into your schedule? I've got a huge reading list right now. I can't promise that I'd get to it anytime soon if I did. But I have seen some of the methodological issues with it though, and as I say, I'm concerned that the data here is being skewed. Okay. Let's move on to the next one here. Next one. Louis Sandoval asks, what does God's oneness mean with the doctrine of the Trinity? How can God be one essence yet three distinct persons? It's a matter of one what, three who. Okay? We don't know how the economy of the Trinity actually works, okay? How they can remain distinct and yet have personal distinctiveness within a single what. It's something that we can apprehend but not comprehend. So, but it's also clear that the Bible teaches it. So, it's one of those things that the oneness of God means that yeah, God is one what? He is one divinity, one great being. And yet he manifests himself as three persons eternally. So that's one of those things that is just really difficult to try to reconcile, but it is the teaching of inspired scripture. So hope that helps. Thank you for the question. Darkblade, one what, three who's? Guess Turek has to be right about at least something. Hey, broken clock is right twice a day. It keeps learning. Do you subscribe to the teaching of two Yahwehs in the Old Testament? Yes, I do. You can find this in Isaiah 44:6, and the reason why let's bring this up. Let's bring up Isaiah 44:6, and you'll see it for yourself. Then I don't have to just explain it. Isaiah 44, verse 6. All right. Now, there's two Yahwehs here. Where you see that Lord in big old capitals, that is Yahweh. All right? So, Lord is just a placeholder there for Yahweh. Okay? So, thus says Yahweh, the King of Israel. So that is a positive statement there. So Yahweh is the King of Israel. And his Redeemer. Here is what makes us know that there's two Yahwehs. His Redeemer is a possessive. Okay, his is the possessive pronoun referring back to Yahweh. So Yahweh's Redeemer. Then it's identified who it is. Again, by an positive. The Yahweh of hosts, of armies. I'm the first, I'm the last. There is no God besides me. Two Yahwehs. One, King of Israel. The other, his Redeemer. That's how we get to the two Yahwehs thing. Two Yahwehs, one God. Okay. Technically three Yahwehs. Three Yahwehs. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Each one is Yahweh. All right, let's move on to the next question here. Let's actually flip to a super chat and then come back. CPM versus DOS for $10. Thank you for the super chat. Best Aggie. Ooh. What is the best eggie? The best eggie is the secret eggie. The secret ending. That's the best eggie. Absolutely, it's the best eggie. No. When you play through all possibilities and you earn all 50 eggies, you get the secret eggie. That's the best eggie. Okay. It'll take you some work, though, to get through it. The game has 6 endings. Actually, 7. Okay, let's move on here. Keep talking about her game. Mrs. Producer wants me to keep talking about her game because she loves her game. Why not? Product placement. Hey, YouTube keeps bugging me to put in product placements for their stuff. I mean, why can't I do it on my own? Mama asks, does it rival Fabergé eggs? One of them does. One of them definitely rivals a Fabergé egg. Easily. Got gears and everything. Okay. Okay. All right. CPM versus DOS. Yeah, keep talking about it and how great it runs on Linux. It runs very well on Linux. Surprisingly, it runs very well on Android, although we don't know how to exactly use Steam to get it onto Android, but Android release will come soon. It runs on, the game runs on PC, Macintosh, Linux, and we do have a build for Android too. We can't do a build for iPad. Here's the thing. You need a Macintosh to do the final compilation step to get it to run on iPad. We don't have that. We don't have a Mac. We don't have a MacBook or anything like that. So, so we unfortunately can't put it on iPhones or iPads. That's the one platform we can't do, because that would require a certain investment on on our behalf that we're just not going to get back, probably. Mama, can you choose a bunny avatar? You are a bunny in the game. You are a bunny in the game. CPM versus DOS. Can I send you a build from a Mac? The problem then becomes, how do we maintain it? Yeah.
Can you just send us a Mac?
Yeah, the problem is we have to maintain it because bugs are still being found.
If he's willing to help us,
so
we would love that, and that would help.
Mom asks, are any of the bunnies modeled on your own bunnies? Yes. Gwenny is, this one here is modeled after the very first rabbit we have. Now the other bunnies, Shorty, and this is Jason here, are also modeled on bunnies. All the bunnies in the game are patterned after real rabbits that existed. In fact, in the credits at the end of the game, we show you a picture of the artwork beside the real bunny. Photograph of the real bunny. And it's a tribute to those bunnies. So yes, all the bunnies in the game are modeled after real bunnies. And we did get permission from their owners to do this. So, Merneath does not show up in the game, though. Okay, next one. Oh, thank you for wishlisting the game. We appreciate that. Sing a Bright Song wishlisted the game. Yeah, it's on Steam. You can already wishlist it. Okay. Next one here is, let's see here, next super chat. Is from Rich Adams. And Rich Adam, and he asks, does the switch from city life to pastoral life, clan culture, influence the laws God gives in Exodus 20 through 23? Yeah, there are a lot of things that do change as a result of that switch from city life to pastoralist life. And clan culture does play a large influence on that. However, the way that Israel tends to do this is more along the line of, say, almost a hybrid model of agrarian pastoralism. Not complete pastoralism. Yes, they are sheep herders, but they also have land holdings too that are marked by marking stones. So you tend to see that more in, say, agricultural farming communities than you do, say, in, say, true pastoralist, where they're wandering the hillside to feed flocks. So there are going to be a lot of laws that are influenced, like even something so simple as the lex talionis, the eye for an eye. That is a shift from city life to, say, a more pastoralist, at least clan culture kind of retributive justice. So yeah, there's a lot here. There's a lot there that is, and some things like even like if someone's dead, that someone finds a dead person out in the wilderness, the closest city has to do the purity ritual, so that the land is not defiled, and it just fell upon, say, the closest settlement to do that sort of thing. So a lot of this does harken back to clan culture, and how that clan culture sort of fleshed out when they moved from, say, city life into the land of Israel. All right. Rich Adams asked the related question here: is there a connection to the law codes of Hammurabi? Not so much in the in the laws that you find in Exodus and in Leviticus. All right, but you do find a strong code of Hammurabi connection in Genesis. That's where you find it. Like, all the laws that Abraham and Sarah are quoting each other, a lot of them are coming out right directly out of the Mesopotamian codes. Things like Lipit Ishtar, like Code of Hammurabi, those things. So you do see a connection to the law codes of Hammurabi. It's just not in, say, the Sinai covenant, but you do see it in the personal relationships between the patriarchs, like the whole using a slave to produce an heir. Abraham and Sarah are basically wrangling using the laws of Mesopotamia to come to their decisions on this. So they're picking and choosing which laws they want to follow, yeah. And they're not exactly doing it in a. They're breaking sometimes they break the spirit of the law for the letter of the law. So, yeah, one of those things. Okay. So anyway, hope that answered the question. Thank you very much for the question. Really appreciate it. Okay. I want to thank here PA888 for $20. Thank you for the super chat. And he would like to sponsor as question you pick. Okay, we're going to go back here. And I'm going to get back into this. I'll see what's the next question here.
One that does was Danny.
Okay.
He's got a friend.
Okay. We'll take that one later because we're gonna run out of questions as it is. For some reason, there's not very many people here tonight, so we'll take Maverick Glow here's question here, and this will be the sponsored one. How should we understand the monotheism of Akenatan? I've heard people try to equate it with worship of Yahweh. Okay. This was a view that was very, very common in the late 19th century. After the discovery at Amarna and all the tombs that were found there by Petrie, a lot of people interpreted the hymns of the Aten as being monotheist. And this was a view that was really espoused by Cyril Eldred. And people still do hold this. Now, I've taken a really, really hard look at the hymn to the Aten, and it doesn't look monotheistic to me. If anything, I'd say it's pantheistic. It's definitely pantheistic. He's not a monotheist. Now, here's why I say this. Okay, and I know this is going to irk James Hoffmeyer, because he still holds to the monotheistic view of Akenatan. I don't hold to that. You look at what Aten is. Aten is the solar disk. It's the big solar disk. They worship the sun. Okay? So Atenists worship the Aten, which is the sun disk. Okay? But you look into the theology, and it's timeless. There's no beginning and no end for the Aten. It's eternal in both directions. At the same time, you're Aten. I'm Aten. The gods of Egypt are Aten. The world is Aten. Everything is Aten. All is Aten. Aten permeates all things, and all things owe their life to Aten. All is Aten. That's not monotheism. That's pantheism. And once you understand that Atenism is a monotheist, a monolatrous pantheism, you really start understanding who Akenatan was, what his religion was like, why it was like the way it is. Mama says, oh, that's totally pantheism. Yeah, it is. Darkblade says Neb Itan. Okay, you got that backwards. It's Itan Neb. Okay. 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 Yeah, the Neb follows whatever it's modifying. So, I'm interesting that you use the Egyptian here, but yeah, it's the other way around. CPM versus DOS, but several articles I read said it was monotheism. Milo says here, each man is a god, each man is free. Puma man. Okay. Scott Worth, Akenatan was part of a wider henotheistic pantheism movement going on here and there, minor movement yet persuasive. Habiru henotheists hit his Canaanite cities to his utter indifference. Okay, Amorites were henotheists. Okay? We do know that the Hyksos were henotheists. Okay? Habiru, yeah, Habiru that's a class. So you had Habiru, who were both henotheists. You also had Habiru that were polytheists too. Habiru is just the word meaning bum. Bum, no good, outcast, mercenary, sojourner, bum. Akenatan himself was not henotheistic. He's not henotheistic. He didn't believe that. He didn't believe that all the gods were individual gods. He believed that all the gods were manifestations of Aten. So every god that was a real god, and he thought that there were some that weren't. Like, for example, he did not think Amun-Re was a real god. He did not think that that Osiris was a real god. But the ones that were real gods, they're just manifestations of Aten. And this produces some very interesting things, because he still believed in things like Anubis. Anubis, the escort of the dead to the afterlife. He's a manifestation of Aten. He believed that Uraeuses were minor deities, but each of them manifestations of Aten. So he believed in one. He believed in a monolatry. That you worship only one God, but that God is everything, and at everything is the Aten. So, hey Scott, that's okay. He says, so sorry, Habiru of Canaan at that time. I'm being too broad. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. The Habiru of Canaan, many of them were. You're quite right there. Those are henotheistic. At least in their assessment. I'm not so sure they're pantheists though. So I would say they're henotheists. I mean, because you get, for example, like you see like the ball cycle in Ugarit. It's henotheistic. It's definitely henotheistic. It's not really pantheistic though. So, he later on adds, here just now, almost sounds akin to Hinduism's manifestations of Brahman. Yeah, absolutely. That's an example of true pantheism. Hinduism is a pantheism. Now, Hinduism tends to veer more towards, say, polytheistic pantheism than henotheistic pantheism, but it's still similar. It's similar. Akenatan believe, though, you shouldn't, like, for example, if unless you in the metaphysics of Akhenaten's world, if you could recognize another god as being part of the Aten. Like, for example, if Shemesh came to town, he'd say, oh, Shemesh, you might be the Mesopotamian sun deity, but as long as you recognize Shemesh as part of the Aten, he didn't have a problem with that. It's all is Aten. The metaphysics of what Akhenaten was proposing was more important to him than the actual names of the deities themselves. So, this is the situation he got into with the Theban priesthood. He wanted to say, yeah, okay, we'll accept Re, as long as he's part of the Aten. And the priesthood basically said, no, it doesn't work that way. The Theban priesthood said, Aten is king. Oh, sorry, not Aten is king. Amun-Re is king. So the Theban priesthood is saying, Amun-Re is king. No compromise on that. That's where you get that conflict then between Amarnan theology and Theban theology. And look at that. YouTube is acting up yet again. Lovely. Lovely. I just love when YouTube acts up. Okay. Next. Okay, so um so yeah, essentially we can't we shouldn't understand the theology of Akenatan as being monotheistic. It's definitely it's monolatrous, but it's monolatrous pantheism. So do with that what you will. All right. But thank you for the question. It's a great question. All right, next one here. Ryan Comcamp asks the question, who was the actual oldest living person in the Bible? That is going to be really up for debate. Most of the people we can assume that some of those people did live into their 90s, maybe their early 100s, but actually confirming that with the idiosyncrasies of the language going to be exceptionally difficult. Of all, like the one with that has the longest recorded age is Methuselah, but the problem with that is going to be, well, which age is that? Because the Septuagint, Samaritan Pentateuch, and the Masoretic text all have different ages for Methuselah. The other problem too is that you're at that point you are dealing with clan longevities. So if you're dealing with clan longevities, all bets are off as to what is really the true age of these people. And we don't have any way of knowing one way or the other who was the oldest. So, unfortunately, this is one of those questions you really cannot answer. All right, let's move on to the next one here. Before I answer that one. Okay, Mr. White asked the question, do you think the serpent in Genesis, the adversary in Job, and the Satan in the New Testament are the same figure? Maybe. Okay. Definite positive maybe. Okay. The serpent in Genesis and the Satan in the New Testament, they're the same. Okay. Definitely they're the same. We have corroborating evidence from that from, say, the book of Revelation. Okay. So Revelation identifies them as the same. Adversary in Job, that's a maybe. We're not really sure about the adversary in Job. It's not explicitly said. Now, it's possible he is. He seems to does get his jollies out of twisting the toes of poor Job. But maybe Satan has a cousin, yeah. Yeah, he does like to torment Job. So it is possible that there's the same character, but we're not told explicitly. So so that's basically what I would say is yes, serpent in Genesis, Satan in New Testament, they're the same. Adversary in Job, maybe. That's a maybe. We don't have confirmation of that. But yeah. Good question. Thank you very much for the question. Really appreciate it. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Okay, 9 foot. Okay, next one here. I want to thank Sing a Bright Song for $20 Canadian. Thank you so much for your generous super chat here. He says, no particular question, just wanted to donate. Thank you for all your work here. You are most welcome. We do this as our regular time to come and answer questions from the community. So this is our time to answer your questions. And we are very pleased to do it. So thank you so much for supporting the work. We so very much appreciate it. Okay, and next one here is from... where I just see it here. Okay, Danny the Man asks a question here. What do you say to someone who struggles with the idea of eternity? I know someone who almost fears the idea of living forever, even in heaven, and she could really use some clarity. The idea of living forever, if it's a blessing, it's a blessing. If it's not a blessing, it isn't a blessing. And that seems a little trite, but if you're living forever and you're not in pain, and you don't hurt, and you can pursue things that give eternal life meaning, I can't imagine anything better. You know? Giant library, animals to cuddle with. You know,
You can join the section, cuddling up the light.
petting zoo in heaven, yeah. But yeah, it's kind of odd that that she would have this kind of a fear of eternity. Most people don't fear eternity. Most people fear mortality. That's what most people fear. Very few people fear eternity, unless it's a bad kind of eternity. So I'm not quite sure how to reassure somebody. Oh, she's not she's not a fear of eternity. Where is it?
No, probably.
Oh, that's your assessment? That she's fearing eternal mediocrity?
If existence isn't bad, but it's not wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of it lasts forever. Just the state of being, not being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a very logical concern.
Well, it's a logical concern if what... Here's what I think. I mean, the perception that a lot of people have of, say, eternal life... I'm not talking eternal death. Okay, I'm not talking second death here. But eternal life. What people's perception of it is pretty shallow. I mean, a lot of people think you're sitting on a cloud stringing a harp. You know. Well, nobody knows how to play a harp, first of all. Unless they're at Ren fairs, yeah. Yeah, Ren fair people do, but most of those people are not banking on heaven anyway. I would say that that the fear of living forever is not the cause. Okay. Nobody fears living forever any more than they fear living in the moment. Okay? What they do fear is the idea of that their life won't have any more meaning than it does today. So that's a fear of mediocrity. They fear that they're going to live, they might be in pain, and they're fearing eternal pain. That nothing's going to change. In which case, it's a distrust of, say, God's goodness. But nobody really fears the idea of living forever in a perfect world. And that's what eternal life is. It's living forever in an eternal world. an eternally good world. So, in relationship with God,
she doesn't like the idea of their
not being okay. So she's not liking the idea of there being no closure, no finality. What kind of closure? At that point, I'd have to ask, what kind of closure or finality is she seeking? Is she seeking the fact that no closure with her past relationships? Because I've heard that too. I mean, I've heard some people, they don't typically that whole idea of lack of closure of relationships. I've seen that a lot with annihilationists. Where annihilationists are a lot of annihilationists say that they can't get past losing their friends. They know their friends are going to hell, but they just can't get past that. So they have to come to the idea of annihilationism, not because the Bible says so, but because they can't get beyond the fact that their friends are suffering in an eternal state. It becomes in some ways an argument from emotion. But the fact is, though, that the joy of heaven is so insurmountable. It's a poverty to understand that the joy of heaven is so good that it way outstrips the loss. And yes, losses happen. That we do see in, for example, the book of Revelation, that the tree of life will be used to wipe away every tear, every sorrow, every loss. So I do think that clarity comes with perspective. We have this all the time in our lives where, there's something that we thought was really important in the moment, of friendship as a child, that, as an adult, you just don't think about anymore. Traumatic at the time. Absolutely traumatic at the time. But you grow out of it as you gain perspective. And heaven's going to be like that. I mean, we can't have that perspective now. We're not eternal yet. We're not living in that perfect state. So there's so that sort of closure of past griefs isn't for now. Yes, some people will have already experienced that through other loss and, say, basically growing from that. But that's, I think this hits some people. This hits really, really hard, especially when I've noticed that this also hits people who have these sort of losses in their teen years. Like I don't see this so much, say, for example, with a childhood friend being lost, but when it's like a teenage friend that's lost, you're a teenager. You're already starting to get to know people on a more deeper level. And then, Johnny rides his motorcycle into a brick wall. Okay. And then you're thinking, okay, Johnny was an atheist who hated God. He's not going to heaven. Okay, what's going to happen to him now? I loved him so much. So, I think it's sort of, it produces a kind of arrested development where you just can't see, say, the eternal perspective here. So I don't know if anything like this will help, because a lot of these sorts of fears are based upon attachment basically emotional attachments. And I'm not sure there's a good way to counsel somebody with emotional attachments like that. But that's the best I can give you, okay? I hope that helps. And I hope your friend, sort of starts to see this more in an eternal perspective. And, Mama has it right. Emotion-based thinking. Yeah, it's emotion-based thinking.
Emotion.
Well, emotion's valid. No one's saying the emotion isn't valid, but it is emotion-based thinking.
Especially if she's a believer now,
Mm-hmm.
she's lost her joy.
Yeah, but it is.
It's just...
Yeah, well, that's the prejudice fallacy too. It's basically, and you can't use fallacies against somebody's emotional hurt, but it is the idea that just because we have it today, it's as good as it's going to get. So again, I agree with Mama here. It's emotion-based thinking, but it's also, that doesn't deny that it's painful. It doesn't deny it hurts, and it doesn't deny that people will have reservations because of it. However, you can't really rationalize somebody out of that either. So, but we'll keep your, Danny, we'll keep your friend in prayer and hope for the best. So, thank you very much for the question.
Let her know.
Yeah, do let her know that heaven is better than here. I mean, really it is. Okay, let's say next one here. Okay, I've done that already. Probably going to get to Milo's question here very soon. Oh, there's another one on it. Yeah, there's another member question. That's what I was thinking here, but yeah, I'm just at this point I'm looking for non-super chats because yeah, we're at 11 already, so we've done a full live stream anyway. So all right, here's Milo's question. Milo Mortimer asked the member question. Any thoughts on the new species of Spinosaurus that was discovered in Niger? Unicorn Spino. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Pretty cool. Spinosaurus with a big horn on its head, spike on its head. Love it. Love it. I used to have some Spinosaur teeth. I lost them when we moved to England, but we used to have some dinosaur teeth. I love fossils. I wish I had some. I lost my entire collection of fossils, but I used to have some Spinosaur teeth. I used to have some Mosasaur teeth. I had trilobites. I had I think it was a fossilized leaf, a lossified leaf. Also a fossil of a fish. Used to have one of those too. Loved fossils. Absolutely adore fossils. Hey. Oh yeah. Yeah. We used to buy fossils from a vendor that used the sand blowing airbrushes to articulate all the legs on a trilobite or on the tendrils of a trilobite. And those were awesome. Those were just such beautiful fossils. Hey, if anyone wants to send me fossils to my P.O. box, I'd love it. That would be a gift. But yeah, I lost all my fossils in my move to England to do my PhD. So yeah, the PhD cost me a lot of stuff. It cost me original artwork. We lost some of our own artwork during that move. We lost our whole fossil collection. My Boy Scout badges, everything I lost. Yeah, so yeah, it cost us a lot. Personally. My whole manga collection, I had a sizable manga and comic book collection, lost it all. Yeah, both our science fiction books. Lost, not sold. I wish it had been sold, but we didn't have enough time to sell it. So Darkblade goes, which would you like more? Fossils or Jesuit sword guards? Oh, that's a tough one. They're both good. Jesuit sword guards would be a lot more expensive. But if I could get a one Tokei Suba would be nice, I have to admit. But getting your hands on it is just... Mama says, that is so sad. Yeah, well, sometimes you give up everything for the kingdom. And that's what we did. We gave it all up. When Christ goes, give up all you have to come follow me. We've done that now. We've done that now. So yeah, sometimes you do it. You have to give up everything you own to do what the gospel calls you to do. So Common Lurker says, owning dinosaur fossils sounds so neat. How much were they? They weren't that expensive.
And if anybody is in the States
and
can go to that show in Arizona.
Oh yeah, the fossil show in Arizona was fantastic. I think I paid something like $10 a piece for a Spinosaur tooth. They're very common. At least they used to be very cheap. I don't know if they are anymore. Now that there's been a few movies out on them, that tends to jack up the price of all fossils. Yeah, we haven't been there in 20 years, so we don't know how much they are now, but...
yeah, it's gonna rust and turn them.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have while you're here.
The trilobites, I think I paid $50 for each. Not too bad. The mosasaur teeth I got for 20 apiece. So, yeah, it wasn't... Fossil collecting is not an expensive hobby to get into if you have access to the dealers. It's more of a hobby that if you have access to the dealers, pretty easy to get into. Got to be aware of counterfeits. There are counterfeits. You have to be careful of that. But, Milo Mortimer says they sell for about $20 now. Okay, so again, it hasn't gone up much in price that much. So where did I see that Mama's comment? Common Lurker says, owning dinosaur fossils sounds so neat. Yeah, they were. It was really neat. Scott Worthen says, it's all going to rust and turn to mothballs anyway, right? Well, yeah.
Yeah. There are a lot of dinosaur digs.
Yeah, there's a lot of dinosaur dig sites in the Midwest, especially along the Green River Formation. The Green River Formation has a lot of these. And a lot of the stuff we did get was from the Green River Formation. Oh yeah, it's not an investment. It's not an investment at all. Mama says, I don't think one could consider fossils an investment since we're always going to be finding more and more as time goes on. But it's definitely cool to collect. Oh yeah, it's a piece of history. That's what makes it cool. It's not that they increase in value. Sing a Bright Song, was it trilobites or ammonites? Can't quite recall. We've had both. We have had, like, I don't remember this, when I bought a big bag of these coal from shale deposits, ammonites from shale deposits. They were awesome. They were really nice. And I had like 20 or 30 of them that as I said, I bought the whole bag of them. And we used them in jewelry and all sorts of things. But yeah, they're a piece of history. That's why you'd buy them. It's not that it's so much. They're not an investment. Although if you get amolite, that is an investment. Yeah, amolite's a different thing. Amolite is a gemstone that comes from ammonite shells. If you've ever seen amolite, it is spectacular and it's incredibly expensive. It's kind of like opal. You're paying for the color.
18 inches of opal.
Yeah, 18 inches of opal. Yeah. Yeah, beautiful stuff. Amolite's really beautiful stuff. But it's, again, at that point, you're not getting amolite for the fossil. You're getting amolite for the gemstone quality. But ammonites, we had one ammonite that had pyrite crystals on the inside. So, yeah, all that's gone. All of it's gone. But anyway, there we go. Mama says, I wonder if Green River Formation is the remnant of an ice age dam breaking, hence all the fossils. It's a runoff from a inland sea. Okay. There was a large sea that divided North America down the middle. And yeah, I just love fossils. They're just cool stuff. They're a piece of history, and yeah, very interesting stuff. Mama says pyrite ammonite fossils are being found off of the coast of England all the time. That doesn't surprise me. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff isn't rare, but getting good specimens, that's the problem. Yeah, buying online you can get garbage, but they're not typically all that expensive if you've got access to a dealer. But that's the problem, is you need the access to the dealer to do it. Okay, let's move on to the next one here. Common Lurker asks, were the Semites still worshipping Resheph and Astarte at Avaris in the early Dynasty 19? Yes, they were. I know they still worship Baal, but I'm not sure about the other ones. We do find little statuettes about yay big. And they're basically statuettes that are part of, say, they're made out of a ceramic. And the image of Astarte is imprinted on the ceramic billet, and so we do know that they were worshiping Resheph and Astarte even into early Dynasty 19. It just seems to be a very common Semitic. They're common Semitic deities that were ubiquitous at the time. We even find one of those Resheph idols, for lack of a better term, at Tel El Borg. So there was one found there too. So yeah, they worship Baal, but they also worshipped Resheph, Astarte. We also find a lot of Egyptian amulets there too. So it doesn't seem like the Semites were terribly picky who they worshipped. There are Amonist amulets found at Avaris in the 19th dynasty. Anubis and Wet amulets. Osiris amulets. Hathor amulets. So while the Hyksos governors, the actual rulers in Dynasty 15, were very henotheistic, it doesn't seem that the actual Semitic people after the Hyksos left were henotheistic. They seem to be much more polytheistic. So, anyway, hope that helps. Thank you for the question. Really appreciate it. Milo Mortimer asks, if it were possible, which chaos monster would you want as a pet if it were shrunk? Which chaos monster? Oh. I'd love a Tanim. Okay. Behemoth, nah. Leviathan, even, nah. Rahav, maybe, because it was kind of a flying thing. It'd be like having a pet bird. But a Tanim, a dragon. Yeah, a sea dragon. That I'd like. I'd like a sea dragon. Have a little fish tank for it. Oh yeah, that'd be so cool. Definitely would take a Tanim. I hope that helps. Thank you very much for that question. Michael Mortimer, yeah! Yeah, go Tanim! Darkblade asks, will I be able to learn Okinawan in more languages in heaven? Sure, why not? Let's go to Revelation. This begs the question, or demands the question, though. Are there going to be languages in heaven? Human languages in heaven. And for that, we go to Revelation. Revelation, I believe it's chapter 4, if I'm not correct. Let's see here. Revelation 5? Yeah, here it is. Revelation chapter 5, verse 9. And these are the saints that are in heaven. Quote, they sang a new song, saying, worthy art thou to take the book and break its seals, for thou wast slain and didst purchase for God with thy blood men from every tribe and tongue and people and nation. So, tongue. Every tribe and tongue. Tongue is just a common word of saying languages. Okay? Revelation 13:7. It was given to him to make war with the saints, overcome tribe and people. Given to him, and so the fact is that we don't lose our language distinctions in heaven. We just, you'll have the time to learn it if you want. So if learning languages is your thing, yeah, heaven's going to be a great place for you. So, yeah, you can learn more languages in heaven. Okay. Mama, I want to thank you for that $2 super chat sponsoring Milo's Chaos Monster question, which we already took. So I want to thank you for that super chat. We really appreciate your support of the channel. Mama says, Rav? I don't know. I mean, Ziz is cool. Ziz is cool. Ziz is like a big flying bird. So, yeah, sing a new song in new languages. Absolutely. You want to sing it in Okinawan? Fantastic. Do that. Want to sing it in Hittite? Do that. You'll have the chance to learn. Learning doesn't end on planet Earth. You just get more opportunities to learn in heaven. I think that's a great proposition.
I will finally have the...
Yeah, Mrs. Producer says she'll finally have the 3 centuries to learn German. With me, it's Latin. I just can't find the time to do it. Okay. Mama asks a question. Is there at least a chance there will be dinosaurs in heaven? Yes, there will. All nature will be in heaven. Okay. Now that doesn't mean every animal from nature will be in heaven. Okay. But there will be representatives of nature in heaven. So, is there a chance that there will be dinosaurs in heaven? Yes. As well as if there are alien worlds where there's alien life, yes, there will be representatives there too. Now, here's sort of my view of heaven in general. It's vast. It's not restricted to one world or one place. I get the idea that some people view heaven like it's a shoebox. It's a little shoebox that God's inside, some saints are inside, and that's it. The heavens are incredibly vast. As vast, at least, as our physical universe. Okay? So, when you're talking here about the vastness of outer space, you're talking billions of galaxies with billions of worlds, billions of stars. It's mind-boggling how big it is. If you think of it, 13.9 billion light years. Billion. That is huge. And you don't think God will find room for animals? In all that space? There's no room for animals in that? Oh, can't have animals there because it'll edge out the humans.
There's going to be a new heavens and a new earth.
Yeah, there's a new heavens and a new earth, yeah.
We're going to be down here with all the animals that ever existed. Not just the ones who have not gone extinct.
Well, I also think, too, that, say, a lot of animals will have their own reserves. So, because frankly, some animals don't want to be with us. We haven't yet, but, heaven for some animals might be just getting away from humans.
But that would be heaven.
True, that'd be heaven for a lot of humans, too.
I want to be in Eden with you divine couple.
Yeah. Mama says, as creative as he is, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, so, I don't see any problem with there being animals in heaven, just because of the vastness of what's involved. Darkblade says, I haven't checked, but my impression is what people find hard about German is the case system. The displacement of the verbs to the end of the sentence by auxiliaries and long compound words. Yeah, that's the difficult bits.
And the fact you have to listen to the end, your part of the sentence can change the meaning entirely.
Yeah, the auxiliary verbs. Yeah, the auxiliaries, yeah. Scott Warthen, much bigger since dark energy has the cosmos acceleration rate of expansion as far exceeding c. Caveat emptor. Into physicists may be befuddled about inflationary thinking. Oh, yeah. There was actually a very interesting theory. I haven't actually looked into how likely this is, Um, recent theory has been proposed that say what's anchoring galaxies might not be supermassive black holes. This has just came out just recently, but somebody came up with the idea that what might be anchoring the galaxies is a supermassive cluster of dark matter, which is an interesting, incredibly interesting view, because a super massive cluster of dark matter would essentially have the same effect for anchoring a galaxy as, say, a supermassive black hole, but without the necessity of needing a supermassive sun to do it. And Mama says, yes, just saw another YouTube channel cover it. Yeah. As I said, I haven't looked into it yet. I'm going to be looking into it after tonight's live stream, but it's a very interesting view. It's a very interesting view. Because that would seem to indicate that it would be if it's not a black hole, that'd be your first, like, that and the soul and the star streak. There's a gap streak that's actually happening with our galaxy, too, where there's a streak of stars that have been sort of moved out of position, that are sort of interluded, and then you take those two together. I mean, it's pretty good evidence then for dark matter, which is kind of really interesting. So, yeah, fascinating stuff. Very fascinating stuff. Sing a bright star. The supermassive black holes are, if I remember correct, generally not thought as anchoring the galaxies, but more just occurring in the center of galaxies by nature of being in the center. Well, yeah, but that's what's the idea there is. It's creating that gravitational sort of anchor. I mean, anchor may not even be the best word for it, but basically the gravitational well that you need for stars to orbit a galaxy. So it's not really anchoring in that sense, but it is basically there to gives the galaxy shape. So basically what we observe as, say, the spiral arms, the rotational spiral of the galaxy. So, but if it's a dark matter instead, it'd have the same outcome, without the sort of the intricacies of needing to create, because the one issue with a supermassive black hole is you need a supermassive star, or at least some predecessor to a supermassive star. And that's sort of kind of the theoretical issue with those supermassive black holes is, how did you get enough mass going that it collapsed in on itself to create a black hole? Again, we're not sure, but it's black. But again, just because it's black does not mean it's a black hole. So, yeah, very interesting stuff. It's very interesting stuff. All right, next one here. So we got 2 dinosaurs in heaven. Sing a Bright Song asks, thoughts on music of the Bible revealed? From what I read, it's generally regarded as dubious research, but I'm curious what you think. I don't know anything about this. It's not kind of a equal letter distancing thing, is it? I don't exactly know what's meant here of music of the Bible revealed, so I can't really answer that. I had heard, I mean, if it's just like playing music from equal distance letter sequencing, then that's just akin to Gnosticism. But But I'm not sure what's being meant here, so can't answer it. Getting close to the end here. Woohoo! Singer Bright Song says the main thesis of the book is that the cantillation marks were based on Egyptian hieronymy. I don't even know what Egyptian hieronymy is. I don't even know what that means. So, because we don't know anything about the Egyptian musical system. Milo Mortimer. Would Tenim and Leviathan need to be kept in separate tanks? I think so. I don't think you want to keep Chaos Monsters in a community tank. Just say it. Mama says, and you thought it would be a short stream, Doc. Oh, sweet summer child. Oh, boy. I mean, Milo, look. Have you ever kept a saltwater tank? Everything is trying to kill everything else. I mean, one of the things we heard, I mean, you know, we used to keep a saltwater tank and we couldn't keep the thing alive just because everything is trying to kill everything else. Like, one of the old advice from people like in the 90s was, you know, you could keep blue-green damsels in schools and have this wonderful schooling fish in a saltwater tank. And then you find out that blue-green damsels just kill each other off for fun. No reason, just because they like to kill each other. I mean, they're terrible fish. I mean, half of the fish you get in a pet store will either die when you look at it, or you need the perfect environment, in which case they're going to die when you look at it, or they're going to kill each other as you look at it. Some will self-destruct because of bad genetics. Milo says, this is why you keep a single saltwater animal. Yes, and that animal will be a mantis shrimp. Every time. Because it's the only thing that will survive.
And that's another thing. You have to decide. This is why doctors for the fish tank, it's fish and plastic plant.
Yeah.
Because then you have algae.
Yeah.
Because the fish will eat cleaners.
Yeah. Darkblade says, does the murder depend on the genders of the fish involved? No. No, it doesn't. They'll just start killing each other. Milo goes, I want a zebra mantis shrimp, like, actually in real life.
Our mantis shrimp
destroyed. Yeah, we had a mantis shrimp once, and it destroyed our tank. Absolutely wrecked it. Yeah. Yeah, not a good thing. Okay, you don't want a mantis shrimp in real life. I would say invest heavily into plexiglass. Because real glass is not going to take a good strike from a mantis shrimp. Yeah, yeah, a lot of, I mean, even say, in the freshwater world, a lot of those shrimp, a lot of those, like, common aquarium fish are really, really difficult to keep. Like tetras, like cardinal tetras, neon tetras, incredibly difficult to keep long term. Like cardinal tetras require absolutely perfect soft water river flowing systems. Incredibly difficult and very sensitive fish. They're kind of viewed as, oh, they're more expensive than neon tetras, so they're hardy. They're not. Oh, no. No. Get this water chemistry wrong and they're gone. It's just, oh. And the fact is, there are some fish that do say are more suitable for long-term care. They don't look nice. They're not the nicest looking fish. And coral reef? Oh, forget a coral reef. Forget a coral reef, unless you want just one species. I mean, coral reefs, you thinking you're going to grow this beautiful, colorful garden of hard corals. Forget it. Even soft corals, they start, you get corals in a tank, and they start pumping out chemicals to kill their neighbors. Yeah, corals will do chemical warfare against other corals, against other fish and shrimp. Oh yeah, it's just awful. Milo says, my BFF had a goldfish that loved to hoard shiny things. Well, his tank maps were getting too close to his shiny things, and they went missing without a trace. Goldfish are not a beginner pet. They are high polluting. They grow huge. 18 inches. They're an expert pet at best. Your water will never look clean, ever, because they're gross polluters. They will kill each other too. Tell me how I know this. Yeah, they'll absolutely. Yeah, goldfish are not good pets. You need I'm not willing to devote 100-gallon tank to one fish. Just not willing to do it. They'll rip up any plants and landscaping. They'll jump out of the tank, and then you come in the morning and you'll find an 18-inch fish on the floor rotting. Oh, great. Singer Bright song, beta fish are what I had recommended as a beginner fish. They're not a beginner fish either. But given that they're known for fighting fish, they're not immune to killing each. Oh yeah, they'll kill each other. Okay. The problem, there's several problems with betas. One, they do they actually require large tanks. Okay? The reason why they require large tanks is actually because of they're sensitive to heat. Okay? Changes in temperature will make them very sick very fast. So here's the problem with a beta. You can't do a big water change with a beta. If you do a 25% water change with a beta tank, you're going to kill your beta. It just can't. It can't accept changes in water conditions quickly. A change of just 2 degrees too high, 2 degrees too low can make you sick and cause bloating disease. Water chemistry, putting in cleaner water will actually make your beta sick. many of the sort of they're also a have succumb to overbreeding. So when you overbreed an animal like that, it gets genetically weak. The large fins that they've been bred with are very susceptible to rot. The dragon scaled variety causes them to go blind because the scales will actually grow over their eyes. The half moon betas are just susceptible to a basically an internal genetic clock where they'll live for like 6 months and die. Just they're not beginner fish. Milo says beginner fish is honestly a misnomer. Yeah, it is. They take a lot more care than anything with fur and lungs. They do. There are ways to do ecosystems. There's no such thing as a perfect ecosystem. You can't create a balanced ecosystem. That's one thing. It's a myth. You can't make that. That doesn't work. But with enough care, you can make environments that are more natural, but that naturality comes with messiness. And a lot of people don't want the messiness. People want tanks that look nice. And that's very, very difficult to do. Cloud minnows are probably the closest you're going to get away with for a beginner fish, but cloud minnows look really boring. They're almost a gray fish.
The prettier it is,
yeah. Yeah, the prettier it is, the harder it's going to be to care for. Just now there is actually in the saltwater world there is sort of the equivalent of it. It's called the speckled. What was it now? Speckled damsel or something like that. There is one, a speckled cardinal. Speckled cardinal. That's as close as you're going to get to a beginner fish in the saltwater world. The speckled cardinal. But that's and frankly, to be honest, if you kind of like that look, it's speckled cardinals are nice. I like them. They've got nice fins on them. They got this beautiful white white background with black dots on them. They're very nice fish. They're the closest thing to an unkillable fish in the saltwater trade. But that's about all that is. Mama says, so what I'm hearing is goldfish. Big, disgusting, cannibalistic, oversensitive fish with a death wish. Yeah. You're not hearing that wrong. You forgot the word expensive, too. Expensive to upkeep. Very expensive to upkeep. Darkblade, are betas also murderers? Yes. Yes, they are. They will attack and eat other tank mates. Like cleaner shrimp. I mean, that's part of their natural diet is shrimp. So anything like cleaner shrimp they'll eat. They will eat snails, like your pricey $5 Nerit snails. They'll eat those like escargot. They will attack and kill guppies. They'll attack and kill neons. They'll attack and kill other betas. And even the females will do this. So even though you're sometimes told that the female betas are good community fish, they're not. Don't believe it. So yeah, betas are also murderers. The exception to this, which is not really a beta, but it's called a beta, is the saltwater beta. Saltwater betas are pretty peaceful. There's the catch, though. They're incredibly boring. The saltwater beta is one of the most boring fish imaginable. They're a they're brown colored fish with some white spots on it. So they're not good looking like a cardinal, like a spotted cardinal. They get about 4 or 5 inches long. They look like a pancake. They look like a brown, rotting pancake. They're boring. They have no interesting behaviors. They hide a lot. They won't do anything. That's the problem. They won't do anything. They're not interesting at all. So, yeah. Saltwater betas are boring, worthless fish to add to a tank. Freshwater betas are murderers. And they're sensitive. Very sensitive to genetics and heat and water conditions. Really sensitive to it. Milo says, another popular aquarium pet is axolotls, but what people don't realize is that they don't move a lot. So to most people who get them without doing research, they become bored with them. Axolotls are also exotics. Axolotls are endangered exotic animals. If you are going to keep an axolotl, it's going to be expensive. Veterinary care for a exotic marine species is crazy expensive. Very, very expensive. So, not recommended. See here. Milo goes, I accidentally killed a grasshopper I was keeping as a pet. Why? Why were you keeping that as a pet? You want a cheap pet that's actually pretty dang good? Is jumping spiders. Jumping spiders make fabulous pets. Okay? I mean, I'm not a big arachnid guy, not by any means, but jumping spiders make great pets. They're tiny, first of all. You know, they're only about like a centimeter long. They're harmless. You know, if one gets out of its environment, nothing's going to happen, really. They're free. You can buy them, but why bother when you can just go out into the front yard and get them, or find them in your house. They're cheap to feed. They don't require much care. They're intelligent. They will know who you are, and they will be curious about you. So, Milo says, so do isopods and their mysterious roommates. Isopods are you talking deep sea isopods? Because they're weird. They're weird and sick. Talking about axolotls, I think. Not to mention, you need to have a tank with an active biome. You need that with almost any fish anyway, or any sort of any animal that's in a tank-like situation. So that's actually pretty common. He says no. Isopods like roly-polies. Okay, yeah. So like sow bugs, pill bugs, sow bugs, those sorts of things. Yeah. Yeah, you can keep those. Those are easy to keep. Some people might not appreciate them if they get out. But they're harmless. They're harmless. Harmless and easy to care for. I would stay away from the hissing cockroaches, though, unless you want screams. Um, they're really entertaining. Oh, if you say so. Not really my thing. Yeah. Isopods, roly-poly, sow bugs are not really my thing. She's very careful. Well, I hope so. Okay. Sing a Bright Song asks the question. While we're talking about pet keeping best practices, a friend of mine was considering adopting rabbits. So as I understand, you keep rabbits yourself. Anything maybe obscure that you might say? Absolutely. Spay and neuter. Always spay and neuter your pet rabbits. Or neuter. It's not both, it's one or the other. But spay or neuter your pet rabbit. You'll have a much, much better animal as a result. Okay? You'll get, they'll live longer, they'll be healthier, they'll be happier, and they'll be better pets. Okay? A lot of the aggression goes away with spaying and neutering. Okay? Other things, too, is to consider is that consider an older rabbit. 2 years or older. Don't avoid the temptation to adopt young rabbits. Okay? Here's why I say that. Rabbits go through an adolescent stage, and it's obnoxious. Just like adolescence is obnoxious in human beings, rabbit adolescence is also obnoxious. They'll chew. As an adolescent, they'll chew. They'll be aloof. They don't care about you. They'll give you attitude. And they're not affectionate. Okay? Because people, this is what happens. People will buy a baby bunny, 6 weeks old, take it home, and the first 3-4 months, oh, it's so cuddly, it's so cute. And then they get hit adolescence. And then they cease being cute. They get destructive. They'll rip up your carpet. They'll rip up your drywall. Yeah, they're not so cute at that stage. But once they get past that adolescence, they hit 1.5 to 2 years, they develop into a mature, basically very, very, I'd say, adorable companion. Okay, so spay and neutering, adopt an older animal. Okay, so that's 2 things I would say. Now, a third thing I would say about adopting a rabbit, okay, is understand the breed, their temperament, and what you're getting into. Okay? Now, things that affect temperament and attitude are going to be gender and breed. Okay, smaller rabbits tend to be less cuddly and more high energy. Okay, they're fun to watch. They're absolutely adorable and fun to watch, and they can be very, very funny, but they're not going to cuddle with you.
Dwarf bunnies.
Yeah, as Mrs. Producer says, dwarf bunnies are little balls of lightning encased in fur. Okay? Big giant bunnies, especially the males, are very placid, very cuddly. Okay? They do poop a lot, but it's not a big deal, honestly. Just Janice says rabbits poop a lot. They do, but no more so than a cat does. But they smell better. Smells a lot better. And this is a lot of this is because there's very little protein in rabbit dung. So it's mostly dehydrated. Mama asks, can you litter train them? Oh, yes. They're very easy to litter train. Incredibly easy to litter train. So yeah, so they're easy to litter train. They'll use a litter box, just like a cat does, and you clean it. You know, you use pine pellet litter. Yeah, very easy. They're very easy to litter train, and I generally like using their litter boxes. So there is that. I would say though that veterinary care though can be very expensive. Okay. But there's a lot of benefits to having a rabbit. You don't have to walk a rabbit. Our rabbit never leaves our living room. You know, she's down there right now. You know, she's she's a good rabbit. She's gotten up in there in years. She's now 12. So yeah. All right. Let's see if there's any more questions here. I think we're at the end of questions for the most part. Yeah, we're at the end here. Mama asks, how is she? She's on medication at the moment because we came back from the vet and she had picked up something from her food, so she's on medication, and she's going to be going back in a couple weeks. So she's physically doing okay. We did have a medical scare last year that sort of we almost lost her. So yeah, that's why Mrs. Producer stayed home from ETS last year, is to take care of the bunny. So but yeah, she's an elderly bunny. She's an elderly bunny. Once they hit like 9 years, that's kind of like that's when they're old age. That's old age for a bunny. So if they're 9, they've had a pretty good run. So that's old age for a bunny. Large bunnies tend to live less long. Old age for a large bunny is like a giant of some kind, breed of some kind. That tends to be 7. So if you get 7 out of a large bunny, that's good. That's good. But she's definitely pushing that old age. So she's physically very healthy for a rabbit of her age, which is something that we're very, very thankful for. Okay, so I think that is all the questions. I don't see anything else, and we're at the end. I'm just going to check the super chats just in case I missed anything, and I don't think I did. Okay, so very quiet night overall. So, okay, so I think what we're going to do here, we're just 10 minutes from midnight, and I think what we're going to do is call it a night, unless there's any reason not to. Can you think of any reason not to? All right. I think we've answered every question, so try to make it longer, but less. Well, yeah. Oh, there is actually the dead of winter. Well, that could be. Apparently, they are having a lot of winter storms right now in the east. I know that Toronto was given a big warning, so. Duke, stay safe out there. Okay. We want you here back next week. So keep safe, keep warm. Even we're getting it's quite cold weather right now outside. But we don't get the weather here that's nearly as extreme as, say, back east. So stay safe, stay warm, keep the power on. All right? So with that said, we are going to call it a night here. We want to thank everyone who gave us super chats and donated through PayPal. We really, really appreciate it. Again, if you haven't done so already, and you've read Reliquary of the Dead, please leave a review. That's very, very important to us. And now you know why it's important to us. because without that, our writing can't rise above the slush pile that's Amazon these days. We also want to thank our Patreon subscribers and our YouTube membership supporters. Thank you so very much for supporting the channel. What you guys do is you keep the equipment running, and we so very, very much appreciate that. We also want to thank our regular supporters, who just regular viewers who watch our videos, who hit that like, subscribe button, and recommend our media to other social media platforms, because you guys get the message out. Sings a Bright Song says, left reviews on both of them. Thanks for the reminder. Well, thank you for doing that. We really, really appreciate that. That really helps us in very important ways. So, what? M. Sharif didn't get to a question? What question's that? M. Sharif? Is it a super chat? It wasn't a super chat. M. Sharif, was that a super chat or not? Because here's the thing, we don't guarantee that all non-super chats get answered.
I didn't see his name.
I think I saw his name, but I can't remember what it was. What time did you post your question? Okay, well, they didn't use a Q and colon, that's why. Yeah. M. Sharif, if you don't put that Q and colon in, we don't see it.
We assume it's
the
chat.
Yeah, that Q and colon is super important. So I think you're probably going to have to just post it next week and try again. Okay? Yeah, if you don't use a Q and colon, we don't see it. It might as well not exist. We say that at the beginning, and we kind of mean that. So, M. Sharif, post your question on next week's live stream, and we'll happily take it if it's an appropriate question. All right? So anyway, we want to thank you all for joining us tonight. We're glad you could be with us. It's fun every Friday, and we do really appreciate your guys' support with your questions and with your super chats. So with that said, thank you so very much. We had a great time, and we'll see you next week on Ancient Egypt and the Bible. Good night, everyone.